It's another Friday that has come to meet us, thanks to God's grace. It's a Batakari Friday, as you can see. It is Ghana month, so are you rocking your Ghana wear today? That's the note on which I welcome you this morning onto the AM show. Wherever you are, thank you for joining us. Thank you for making the time to be here with us. Now, coming up today, we're going to be dilating on some crucial matters. But right before we listen to the news, we're going to also hear from Samuel Kojo Brace when it comes to the news review. He'll be joining me right here. And right after that, we get into our big story. So who's joining us and what are we discussing? We're going to be looking at the Ashaiman incident. And this morning, as I share my blunt thoughts, I'll be talking about that, touching on it as well. Now, we've heard that the assault of some members of the community in Ashaiman did not end there. Some of them were taken into custody by the military and dealt with further ordeals. A lot of them have ended up with the police. Yesterday, we were talking about families who couldn't even identify, who didn't know where their family members were. Today, we get onto that issue, even as we've heard from Defense Minister Dominic Netawo, who has described the acts of the military as regrettable. But what is the way forward? Already, there have been calls for compensation. I've heard the Member of Parliament for Ashaiman, Ernest Nogbe, talk about what they are expecting to see. We'll be dilating on that all-important matter this morning on the AM show. But when it comes to sports, yes, Manchester United won yesterday, by the way. 4-1 thrashing of the Real Betis. But there's more. On Prime Take, our very own Muftau Nabila will be engaging the CEO of the National Youth Authority, yes, former Deputy Information Minister, Enam Hajide, that is Pius Enam Hajide. He'll be joining us for that discussion. And that's what you can look forward to this morning on the AM show. But do stay with us, because up next, we bring you the news. Do stay. Welcome on the news. Now, in our first story, some companies under government's One District, One Factory program say they may not be able to pay back the money that they took on the back of the Exim Bank. Government, through the Exim Bank, supported some local companies with some funds to either set up factories or re-energize existing factories as part of its industrialization agenda. The Exim Bank has been on the neck of some of the companies to pay back the loans it gave them, but the companies say government, through the bank, can't starve them of funds and turn around to demand repayment of the money. Here are excerpts of our hotline documentary, One District, Some Factories.
Management was made aware that Exim Bank was not going to give us the money upon completion to operate the factory. There was no way we would spend our last peso to commission the project. If you look at the activity leading towards the commissioning, we needed to pave the area, and that cost us a lot of money. That money could have gone into sales, because we don't need to pave our factory before we sell product. But we needed to complete the factory and put it in a shape that is reasonable. Everyone knows that.
Ebenezer Obin Bafo is the Chief Executive Officer of Casa de Europa. Petersfield and Rail Limited is a manufacturing company under the One District, One Factory, established in 2018. It was established to produce high-quality natural fruit juice.
Electricity came to disconnect just this afternoon. I had to go into my own resources to go and pay for them to reconnect the electricity. I don't know if now I'm in a dilemma as to fold up or not. It can happen soon, it can happen anytime from now.
But it appears all is not well with the factory. Today, the processing plants have been shut. The factory is eerily quiet. Power to the plant had been disconnected on the day of my visit.
Payment has been demanded long ago, It's more than 2-3 years now. But anytime they came, I told them there were problems that we need to solve before making profits, and that is to be difficult to pay.
The shutdown of the factories has had a huge consequence on employment in the operational areas of the companies.
When the factory was working, I could use my monthly earnings to support the upkeep of my family. I was even able to use my salary to support my grandchild's senior high school education. If the situation now existed before, I'm not sure I could have supported my grandchild's education.
Adwa Nomaba is one of the 130 people who were dismissed by Casa Europa Company Limited. Today, she has no job.
The man has never defaulted in paying our monthly salaries, but now he owes us more than 3 months. This is not how it used to be in the past. When the factory had not been supported by government, things were very okay. All that the man used to do for the communities here, he's unable to do them again. We thought government support would rather help us.
Let's talk the creative arts now, and visual artist Ibrahim Mahama is calling for more investment into infrastructure to deepen the growth of Ghana's arts industry. He is worried about the low patronage and appreciation of indigenous products and services as compared to those of foreign origin.
Investing in fine arts can be a good investment, but for some, it is a risky endeavor. Most Ghanaians are oblivious of its impact and prefer investing in other industries. But renowned artist Ibrahim Mahama says the arts industry has the potential to foster unity, promote culture and national identity. He was speaking at an art festival on the theme Deepening the Art Culture in the 21st Century.
I think that one of the things that we need to do is to invest into the arts very much. And it comes through investing into infrastructure, like building institutions. And infrastructure not just in terms of museums and all that, but also into schools, like primary, secondary, university. Because when you go elsewhere, there is a lot of investment within the arts and also in culture in a way that is disseminated, you know.
The Arts Festival was staged by the Visual Arts Department of the T.I. Ahmedia Senior High School in Kumasi. A joint exhibition of works produced by visual arts students from notable senior high schools in the region were on display at the first arts gallery in a senior high school. Head of Visual Arts Department at T.I. Amas, Stephen Asamwabona, says the event will enhance the attractiveness of the visual art program.
So the idea is to encourage students in various art schools to give them worth, to know them to be very reputable, and the fact that they are doing a very good course, they shouldn't be looked down upon, they should prove themselves.
Some visual art students shared their prospects for the future.
And I believe that one day I'm going to become the greatest artist, female artist in Africa.
Mona Lisa Frimpong reporting.
Now, women in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, Ghana is encouraging the study of STEM education from the basic level. The organization believes early STEM education can promote and prepare the younger generation, especially girls, to take up careers in STEM. Anita Sewa Ajoga has more in this report.
Technology and innovation are the bedrock for development in the fourth industrial revolution. In order to compete in a global economy, STEM education and careers must be a national priority, according to Wisdom. Speaking at the 2023 Women's Day celebration held at the Ufuakobi Ampem Girls Senior High School, the group urged stakeholders to support and channel resources to less endowed schools to bridge the STEM gap. Dr. Mrs. Mesibedu is the General Secretary of Wisdom.
So sometimes I think some of the principles, it's better we catch them young. We don't need to wait for them to come to the university before you talk about STEM. The STEM has to start now at the in fact, it actually has to start at the basic school. Then when they come to SHS, you build on it. Then by the time they are coming to the university, they know the real applications and how they will use it to solve societal problems. And so I think that it is very good, it is laudable. We only need to resource the schools. When the schools are resourced, I believe that it will be one of the best that we have in the country to have SHS being projected to the level as a STEM institution.
Wisdom, in an effort to bridge the gender gap in STEM education, has over the years organized capacity building activities to inspire young ladies to embrace the study of science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. One of such capacity building initiatives is the Wisdom Girls Camp for senior high schools. Dr. Mrs. Mercy Baidu lauded the government's vision to build 35 STEM schools by 2024.
So the STEM schools, so I heard about this STEM schools somewhere in 2019, we heard that Manfe Girls Senior High School had done some competitions internationally and they've won some awards, and we heard it in the news. So around us too, we know that there are some SHS that are being upgraded to STEM schools. And then understanding is that Efiakobi Senior High School is one of them that has been selected. And so we decided to come here. It is a good idea, actually.
Headmistress of Efuakobi Ampem Girls Senior High School, Sylvia Newton, is happy with the current enthusiasm of girls to learn STEM.
The impression people once held that science and mathematics was a field for boys is gradually being changed. Nowadays, girls are doing as well in science and math as boys.
Some STEM students showcased their innovation.
According to our research on the internet, we found out that there are 6 major causes of road accidents, and road debris is one of them. Then we also have the night driving. We also have the sharp curve and edges. Then we also have potholes. Then we also have rain. So we sat down and brought out a design principle. And according to our design principle, mostly, especially for the night driving, mostly we can see that our road, there is only one single center line. And whenever it's in the night, the drivers try to drive at 80 kilometers per hour. So it can lead to crashing or collision. So we suggested that at least the single center line, it must be 2 with a distance of 1 meter.
For JoyNews, Anita Sewa Ajoga reporting.
Well, from STEM education, let's go to the Upper West, where Regional Minister Dr. Hafiz Bin Salih is asking traditional rulers to help eradicate all structural barriers, discriminatory laws, and practices that prevent women from achieving their full potential in the world of work. He says the practice of giving out young girls in early marriage violates their human rights and impedes their development. Rafiq Salam reports from the 7th Women's Expo Ghana 2023 Regional Roadshow Series in WA.
Expo Ghana 2023 Regional Roadshow Series was launched with the celebration of the International Women's Day, a day set aside by the United Nations to celebrate globally acts of courage of women from all walks of life who have played extraordinary roles in their societies. This is the first time the Women's Expo Regional Roadshow Series has been held outside the Greater Accra region. Representing the Upper West Regional Minister, Dr. Hafiz Bin Salih is the Chief Director at the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council, Peter M. Mala. He stated that the event provides a platform for women, especially emerging entrepreneurs who are doing well in their field of work. It also creates opportunities for them to promote their businesses and visibility for themselves. Peter M. Mala then elaborated on the theme of the International Women's Day celebration.
As per UN Women Gender Snapshot 2022 report, women's exclusion from the digital world has reduced $1 trillion from the gross domestic product of low-income and middle-income countries in the last decade, a loss that will grow to $1.5 trillion by 2025 without action. Reversing this trend will require tackling the problem of online violence, which a study of 51 countries revealed that 38% of women have personally experienced. The team also draws our attention to the importance of protecting the rights of women and girls in digital spaces and addressing online and IT-facilitated gender-based violence.
He has stakeholders to commit to eradicate all structural barriers, discriminatory laws, and practices, including all social norms that hinder women from realizing their full potential in their world of work.
We resolve to end marriages of young girls and other harmful traditional practices that violate young girls' dignity and human rights, as well as end violence against women. These are some of the greatest impediments to women's development in society.
Events Director for Women's Expo Ghana, Nana Adjoakwa agree few more light on the event.
We being here today is to celebrate the day with the women entrepreneurs that are here, for them to come and showcase what they are doing. We have different activities that are lined up for them as well. Free health screening, hepatitis B, HIV/AIDS, malaria, BP, hepatitis C. They will be screened for free, and everything that we are going to do here from tomorrow is free.
Well, let's stay in the Upper West region, where Acting Regional Director of the Food and Drugs Authority, Kelvin Dafari, has warned persons who sell expired and unwholesome products to the public to desist from the act, lest the authority come after them. He notes that though the number of cases of expired and unwholesome products have reduced, there are still some recalcitrant persons around, and warned that stiffer punishment awaits them if they are ever caught. Once more, Rafiq Salam reports from WA.
According to the acting Upper West Regional Director of the Food and Drugs Authority, Kelvin Dafari, the products which were expired, unwholesome, and bloated were picked from various supermarkets, retail centers, pharmacies, and over-the-counter shops in all 11 administrative, municipal, and districts in the Upper West region. They were valued at 261,701 Ghana cedis and comprised of beverages, assorted food items, herbal medicines, and devices. The expired and unwholesome products were taken to the War Municipal Assembly's refuse disposal site, destroyed, and burnt into ashes. It was done and supervised by personnel from the Food and Drugs Authority, FDA, Pharmacy Council, and the Environmental Health Directorate.
This was mainly done from the January 2022 to December 2022. So what you have seen here are products that were seized from shops because they are expired, they are unwholesome, some are bloated, some are, what you are seeing, we went to Tumu, Hamele, Lambusie, Fancy. It's not just only coming from the one municipality, it's across the whole region.
He warned the owners of the expired and unwholesome products that the FDA will come with stiffer punishment if they don't change or bear new leaf.
For now, if we come to your shop again and pick products that are expired, that are not wholesome, we will not only seize them and leave you alone, we will have what we call administrative charge. We will give you the charge, and that one will scare them. At least it will let them watch out for what they buy. So what our advice is that they should consistently check on the product they sell to ensure that if products are expired, they are dented, they are bloated, they are not good, they don't sell them.
Now, the Chief Executive Officer of the OBZ Group of Companies, Ernest Domi, has supported the whole central prison in the Volta region to enhance healthcare delivery to inmates. He's procuring logistics to furnish the prison's health center to enable the inmates access basic health care without having to travel out of the facility. There is more in this report.
As part of his contribution towards the well-being of inmates at the Ho Central Prison, Ernest Domi financed the registration of the 420 inmates onto the National Health Insurance Scheme. This was to enable them access services covered by the insurance in times of need. Mr. Domi, who is the Chief Executive Officer of OBZ Group of Companies, made available an undisclosed amount of money towards equipping the prison's health center.
And basically I got to know that the infirmary of the prisons has been elevated to the status of a clinic health center now. It's not a health center, it's no more an infirmary. So basically, I think because of that, I secure a deal with the Health Insurance Authority for them to come and register all the inmates. So that at least when they register them, now that the thing has been elevated to a health center, with the health insurance card, they'll be able to access some drugs and this thing for free before anything untoward. So basically, that is what I felt like doing on my birthday. So that's why I came to just show this love to the inmates of prison. The prison is not, it's meant for everybody. We all know how to ever bring you here. So it's just a way of showing my faith and love to them.
He, however, admonished the judiciary to apply the law fairly.
The real people are robbing us with pen and paper. For them, they know how to go for bail. They know when they are given the opportunity to even pay back. And they're still walking on the street. And we are here and we say, well, custodial sentence and what? The judges know what to do. The prosecutors know what to do. The lawyers know what to do. I'm not going to tell them how to talk at the court. The judges can reason, the lawyers can talk, the prosecutors know what they are prosecuting. So custodial sentence, I've not been to law school. I'm not going to tell them that what is the difference between a custodial sentence and a non-custodial sentence. They went to school and they learned it. So they should apply the law fairly, without any discrimination.
The second in command of the Ho Central Prisons, Francis Duche, implored the public to continue supporting the inmates, saying funds provided by the government are woefully inadequate.
Really, apart from what we have received, prison has become an orphan. We need a lot of things for the prisoners. Food items in particular, and toiletries. Those are some of the necessary things that we need. Because as at now, we are feeding the prisoners on 1 cedi 80 pesos, which is 60 pesos per meal. And then if you can see the food that they eat in the yard, it's nothing to go with. We urge the general public that they have to emulate the sample of our brother and then come and donate so that our brothers will not be found lacking. We need
Fred Kwame Asari, JoyNews, Ho.
And on that note of magnanimity meeting the needs of the Ho Central Prison, we cap off the news. But do stay with us, because up next, we'll look at what the newspapers have on offer. Do stay. Well, thank you very much for staying with us. Time now for the news review. I'll be joined shortly by Samuel Kojo-Brace, my colleague here at the Multimedia Group. But let's just let you know that this news review is brought to you courtesy of Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. We're offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. You can locate us in Accra's Spintex, opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronumabwe here, behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade, Anaji State, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Isiama Enzima. You can also reach us on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Well, it's only the beginning of the news review, and Samuel Kojo-Brace, my colleague, joins me for the review. Sam, a very good morning to you. You would have to unmute. I see you are chilling with the big boys. You would have to unmute, Kojo.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Now see, I
you're missing me in the studio, because when you started, I saw that you weren't so smiley, and I was like, "Oh, Charlie, I should have been in the studio." But anyway, I'm far away from you, but I'm with you.
You're with me, in the flesh or in the spirit. Anyway, it's been quite an interesting week. We've had the Sona, we had the Ashaiman incidents before. We've had the talk continue about a shortage of vaccines. What story has been dominant for you? Which one has had that recall effect on you in the course of this week?
I think it's straight away, it's Ashaiman.
Okay.
Ashaiman because there is a mother and a father who have just 2 kids. The oldest amongst the two, who just got into the army and was on the way to becoming the breadwinner of this family.
Yeah.
His life was just taken away from him.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that listening to stories about his death brings us to a conversation we need to have about how our society is becoming now. In those days, when you needed help, no matter what time it was,
right,
you could get someone to lend you a helping hand.
Mm.
But today, because of how society has degenerated, nobody is willing to offer help to anybody.
Yeah.
Because of how society has become. So this boy's death needs to remind us that we need to have that big conversation about our society and how it is time for us to revisit how the society was in those days.
Right.
Because if we don't take care and we allow this to fester, I'm telling you, we'll lose very innocent souls that could become, very prominent for this country. Because this boy, if you listen to all the stories about him, was on the way to becoming somebody very, very prominent in the army.
Right.
They tell us he's a very good trumpeter. People say one of his friends told us yesterday that he eats, sleeps, and does everything trumpet. So, and then again, the fact that his death caused the army to go into that community and even subject innocent people to that, you would want to describe as heinous punishment, because someone lying in a gutter, and one man told me in Ashaiman that he drank the water running through the gutter.
I think those is it Tulaku? We heard from the leader as well make mention of the fact that, listen, they hadn't just ended in the Ashaiman area, that there's an abattoir, around the abattoir, and they had made people drink, after the carcasses are washed and all of that, including excrement in there, and they made people drink that. So I agree with you. There are two tragic situations we have to deal with. One, the killing of officers, and any life and every life counts. It doesn't matter whether the person is in uniform or not in uniform. We saw what happened to Major Mahama Denchambwase, that incident, and we condemned it roundly. Now we've seen this. I do not know whether somehow, because of how those clothed with authority deal with people, maybe that fear is getting lost, or maybe people are beginning to feel, you know what, these people in the services are not worth that respect. I don't know what is happening to our society, but it's something we must curb. It's something we must reinforce in the minds of people. Ordinarily, when you see a person in uniform, no matter who you are, you should respect what they do. We have heard stories of whether this could have been personal or whether it could have been a robbery. I will not wade into that. But the other angle of it, before you come in, Kojo, is that we really also have to stem the tide of officers, those clothed with the state's power, abusing that power. What we saw in Ashaiman and its environs are condemnable to. I mean, where in the world do you hear the military doing this? Apart from in some, banana republics or authoritarian states. Where? This doesn't happen.
It's serious. Ben, I would want to say two things. That one, someone told me within this week that it looks like men in uniform are becoming very common in town these days. And probably it's something we've not averted our minds to. He said those days it was rare for you to come across a man in uniform on the street of Ghana. But today, they are all around us. Maybe because the community, the population.
When you speak of man in uniform, are you referring specifically to our soldiers, or are or the military?
The military. I should be specific. The military. that those days they were scarce, but today they are all around us. Maybe because we have a lot of our own brothers and friends getting into the army, and that's why it is like that. Two, now I spoke to the mother, and I asked her whether she's aware that, because we've heard the son went to that Taifa area to visit a woman, and she said she didn't know of that woman, but a friend to the boy, I mean his only friend in Ashaiman, told her that, oh, he knows that the friend has a lady in that area, and I mean, he even led the police to the house of this lady. So we can rule out a robbery.
We have seen some images online, supposedly, purportedly, of the lady. We cannot confirm that. So yes, but
So we can rule out any incident of robbery and focus on going to a girlfriend and probably something happening as a result of that.
Well, we don't know for a fact that it was his girlfriend. I mean, so
we can probably say that he went to see a lady because the mother confirmed that the friend, So yeah, the thing is, he said that he was coming to the mother because he was not well, and ended up going to that area before coming home. But then this happened. Yeah, it's just a sad incident, and anytime I think about it, and the mother's image comes to mind, I feel that pain, because to lose your firstborn, and the secondborn will probably be between 9 and 12.
Yeah.
So
and I listened to the family, Kojo. They were talking about how they had invested in his education. He was such a light in the family. They had so many high expectations of him. They wanted him to excel so that he would be able to help the family and his siblings specifically. And now this has happened.
It's sad. But I want us to look at, to talk about two things, like you said, how the military react or responds to these issues.
We seem to have a little challenge with Kojo Brace's connection, but we're looking at this issue very broadly, holistically, from both ends. The savage killing, savage, brutal, and whoever did that, I pray they get justice, meted out to them. But at the same time, we cannot have our military acting like they did. I mean, they didn't act like the professionals we know them to be. We know they're very professional, very disciplined, but in that instance, what I saw, they appeared to be goons to me. And I say that, I use that very carefully, because you cannot do what they went out there and did. Where was the targeting? Where was the intelligence? You go and round up over 100 people and do this to them, elderly people, young people, and somehow you feel it is justified brutalizing people who may probably have no idea what this is all about. Imagine waking up, coming out of your room, getting accosted, and being flogged like an animal. Not even animals deserve that. Kojo, I hear you're back on the connection.
And you see, some of them, the soldiers even knocked on their doors, and when they got out, they were picked and asked to sleep on the floor. So the whole thing and how it went about, I think the military could have done better, because I know that they have the military intelligence unit or so. They could have used them to then get a specific area to operate in, but to subject everybody to that treatment, that one, I think there's something we can do.
Let's get into some of those stories, and prominent. The Daily Graphic is where we're starting. Killed soldier laid to rest. Ashaiman residents demand justice. It's been a sad start to the year, hasn't it? From Christian Achu, may his soul rest in peace. Now, this soldier as well. And the remains of the late Private Imoro Sheriff were carried for burial at the military cemetery at Burma camp. There's also law enforcement to doorstep. Police create 7 new regions. I'll be taking a look at that story. GES applauds junior graphic for essay competition, and debate on new constitutional instrument. CDD Ghana suggests use of guarantor system. I'll take those 2 stories and then maybe look at some of the international ones. Law enforcement to doorstep. Police create 7 new regions, and the police administration has created 7 additional police regional commands to ensure effective and efficient policing throughout the country. The new regions are in the Ashanti and the Eastern regions, which have 2 each, and the Western, Central, and Volta regions, each of which has an additional regional police command. Now, the 7 new police regions bring to 25 the number of police national administrative regions. All the new regions are working effectively. Let's also take a look at that story on page 18 of the Daily Graphic newspaper. And the Center for Democratic Development Ghana has called on the Electoral Commission to allow holders of the Ghana card to vouch for the identity and guarantee the registration of 3 other prospective voters. The prospective voters who may be wielding other legal identification documents apart from the Ghana card, the CDD Ghana said, must be vouched for under penalty of perjury. The Civil Society on Governance has made the suggestion on the back of the proposed constitutional instrument, that is the CI of the Electoral Commission, seeking to make the Ghana card the sole identification document for continuous voter registration. And the current constitutional instrument 126 allows for a guarantor to guarantee for up to 5 people. This could be reduced to 3, according to the CDD Ghana. And there's also this one. Let me just add it, Kodjo. Operation Save Democracy. NDC directs MPs to stay in Parliament. That story is on page 19. And the NDC has directed its members of Parliament to ensure they attend all parliamentary sittings and not to embark on any travel that will affect their attendance in Parliament. This directive, the party said, was in solidarity with its caucus in Parliament to fight against what the party termed as, quote, the obnoxious constitutional instrument the Electoral Commission is seeking to lay before Parliament. So those 2 stories, the CDD Ghana saying, allow the guarantor system, but cut down from the CI 126 allowance of 5 to 3, the NDC directing its MPs to be frequent in Parliament to counter that move. We all know Sarah Adjo is also not in town, so that would hobble the numbers of the majority in Parliament, and the creation of 7 new regions by the police. Any thoughts, Kodjo?
Yeah, let's start from the police angle. Yeah, it's good we are creating new regions, but I'm looking at the effectiveness of it. You know how we now even struggle to get accurate information from the police? That when things happen, you need to call Accra, the before you are giving the information that you need.
Right.
So we can create regions, but I think the attention or the focus should be on effective policing. How are we ensuring that all these creations that we are bringing on board will lead to that very effective policing that we all want to see? So yeah, we can create it. I want to see how that really improves the police system and how they relate to the public. I hope that the IGP would look at that particular directive that now regional commanders and their PROs can't even speak to the media unless Accra. So yeah, good that we have created it, but I want to see how this effectively changes how we do things in this country. When it comes to the guarantor system, look, the other time we were talking about the Ghana card and how it could be used for blah, blah, blah. Let's have a roundtable discussion and agree on the way forward. We don't have enough time. We have this year, to prepare. Next year is election year. So the more we delay on how to conduct the registration process, the more or the likely it becomes that we would have a very rough, election, and we don't want it. Ghana has become the beacon of hope when it comes to democracy for the rest of Africa, and so we should ensure that we're doing this as early as possible to then agree or disagree whether we're using the Ghana card as the only card, or if we are not, like CDD is saying, we agree on the number that any holder of the Ghana card can, vouch for people to then register. I think the earlier we agree on this, the better for all of us. The more we talk about, let's do this, we are not agreeing, we are moving, it doesn't help. Time is not on our side. Maybe people think that we have the whole of this year and next year to prepare. We don't. We have only this year to prepare. And look, we have election. We have local level elections coming up there later this year. So the earlier we do this, the better for all of us. When it comes to NDC asking its members to stay in Parliament, I think that it's a good call. They want to ensure that the right things are done. I hope that we can agree to disagree to make sure we move ahead. I know there are some ministers designate that they have to approve. Is it because of that? If not, let's just agree to disagree on we don't have time, you know.
Well, they also, I roped in that bit because they were also talking about the CI to be laid before Parliament, and they also want to be, you know, have their say. They want to be there in their numbers to counter and anything that would be untoward. You know, they've been against, using this, especially when they cannot guarantee. There's no guarantee that everybody who would want to secure the Ghana card can have access to it and then move on to use that as the registration document for the election.
It's because they don't want things to go where they want to ensure that things are done the way they have to be done.
Right.
And that's why, I mean, if they have to stay in Parliament and do the parliamentary duties, that's why we voted for them. We voted for them to be in Parliament to ensure that things are done the right way. So this is a good call.
Right.
They have to ensure that it's effectively implemented. And then we can, but I don't want us to be dragging issues that we can all come to a compromise on.
Right.
Let's ensure that we fast track things in Parliament to ensure this country, the government is able to run, we have a smooth running, and then we can achieve the goals that we all want to achieve. So that's it.
Right. Let's look at these two. I'm not going to get into the details, but on the international front, INEC postpones election for new state governors, and UN extends sanctions against Sudan. On the sporting page, 31, Painto Ashimeru return for AFCON test as Houghton names 25-man squad. And some of your favorite players are in there, but I'll tell you one person who isn't in there. Baba Rahman is not in that fray. Blood Bank falls short on annual requirement. That's on the back page of the paper. Were you reacting, Kojo?
To the collapse. I mean, we've all said that Baba Rahman has not showed us enough evidence to be in this squad.
Right.
So if today comes and says, well, I'm not picking him, I'm not sure anybody have qualms with it. The only person I was looking forward to seeing was Jeffrey Schlupp. He's proving...
Oh, right.
Into this, I don't know whether he refused to come because of what we did to him during the World Cup.
Yeah.
So
I mean, we don't know for a fact, but who knows? Who knows his reasons? Maybe if he tells us, then we'll get to know.
I'm thinking that he probably might have called him and he said, no, I need time to overcome what happened to me during the World Cup, because every player's dream is to play for the country at the World Cup stage. Now, when we got there, we told this guy that, we have not seen enough of you, and we didn't pick him. So I'm thinking that he still has some pains in him. But let's see. This is a good squad. Let's see how they can gel together and give us the results that we need.
I just got a message from someone I know who says he was a victim of the incident in Ashaiman, but he doesn't want me to give the details because if I do, it would be clear that he was the one. But maybe when you get into the studio, Kojo, I will show you what he sent to me. It is indeed sad. It is sad how things happen sometimes. This person, maybe I'll explain further. I don't want to say anything that will expose him, but it is sad because guess what? It could happen to anybody. I mean, just imagine it. Just imagine you, Kojo, you went to pay a visit to some family members somewhere in Ashaiman. And I've actually done that before and slept over. So imagine something of the sort happens. And maybe they come and, when these things are happening, it doesn't even matter who you are. But if they didn't realize that, this is Samuel Kojo Brace, and they brutalize you, it could happen to anybody. It could happen to a member of parliament even, because probably they wouldn't know that this is the member of parliament. You remember when Sam George was slapped? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Do you remember that incident? The guy supposedly didn't know, though some said he knew. But that is exactly what could happen. So the system must work so that people are not targeted unfairly like this, because it could happen to anybody. And in that moment, no one will care who the heck you are. It's really sad. It's really sad. Really sad. But let's look at the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Former minister, were you going to say something, Kojo? Please go ahead.
I spoke to one man who was really hurt by what they did to him. And he said he could never forgive the people for what they did to him. He was shocked. And he just, look, there are things he said that I can't say here. But the man was really, really, really peeved at what happened to him. And I think that this could be a lesson to the army, that next time, that's not how to approach an issue if you want to find, a culprit of a crime. That's not. Amnesty International have even condemned this. And they say that the military usurped the power or the powers of the police service. For what they did was to have been left to the Ghana Police Service to do, not to the army.
Let's wrap with these stories very quickly. The Ghanaian Times, former minister jailed over land, goes in 7 days for contempt, and that is Dr. Mustafa Ahmed. He has been my member of parliament before. I'll give you a bit of detail on that story. The other stories in here we've already looked at, but Geological Survey Authority requires $200 million investment to transmit real-time seismic data on earthquake. Let's take this very seriously. $200 million needed, they say. But if you pay attention to the disaster in Turkey, in Syria, in other places in recent times, and you look at our fault lines from the McCarthy Hill area going, and the fact that, earthquakes have happened in this country before. Let's not wait, because we don't have the logistics, we don't have the infrastructure, we don't have the know-how. If we have to invest something to forestall any such, happenings, I think we should do it now. Prevention, as they say, better than cure. But the former Minister of Youth and Sports, Dr. Mustafa Ahmed, has been sentenced to 7 days imprisonment by the Accra High Court Financial and Economic Crime Division 2 for contempt of court. On June 12, 2019, the court in a judgment granted perpetual injunction restraining the former minister, then the defendant, from trespassing on land, but he violated the order. The court also fined him 12,000 Ghana cedis or in default to serve 30 days in prison. That is the story there. The Daily Guide also reflects other stories we've seen. The Finder, I'll just highlight this, 288,000 apply for YouStart, full-scale execution targets 1 million jobs in 3 years. Any quick reactions? And we are gone, Kojo.
Yeah, I think the YouStart thing is good for me. You know how entrepreneurial I am. So when I see programs that support young people to give birth to their ideas, I love it. I am only looking at or cautioning against implementation. I think that in this country, our major problem has to do with implementation. Look at how we implemented the 1D1F policy. Very solid policy, but our challenge has to do with how we implemented it. And that's why we are where we are today. That companies are not able, to operate because the monies are not forthcoming.
Right.
So yes, it's good that people are buying. Let's see how we implement it to ensure that we will actualize the goal, the intent of this particular policy. I'll be happy to see how young people will be creating millions of jobs for millions of Ghanaian youth. And then we can really reap the entire benefit of this policy. So it's a good thing. Let's look at how we can implement it, not the way we implemented the 1D1F policy. That is a shambolic way we did. But I hope that we learn lessons from that and we can implement this very, very well so we can really reap the benefits.
Kojo, I'll leave you with the title of my blunt thoughts for today, right before we get into prime take. Steering Ghana's ship aground. Chaos in high places. Steering Ghana's ship aground. Chaos in high places. I'll tell you what, I'll definitely be talking about the incident in Ashaiman and brutalities, similar brutalities in the past. I'll also be looking at the economy. What President Akufo-Addo, well, before he became president, some things he said about the economy then, and some of what he said in the SONA now, and whether there is a disconnect. Are you curious? Stay. Catch me later on that one. But that is Samuel Kojo Brace, my colleague who joined me here for the news review. Right before we get into prime take, though, let me just remind you once more, we're offering free prostate screening and free female fertility screening. That is Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. You can locate us in Accra Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi Kronumabwe here behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade Anaji Estate, Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanswa and Esiama Nzema. I'm sure you'd like to reach out to us. Just call us on 0244 867 068 or 0274 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Well, thank you for staying, but up next, we serve you sports, and it is Prime Take with Muftau Nabila Abdullahi as he engages the CEO of the National Youth Authority, Pius Enam Hajide, right after the break. Do stay.
It's been 5 years since government decided to invest about $20 million to upgrade the sporting facilities we've got in the country. There were certain areas in the country that had none at all. And under the leadership of the Minister of Youth and Sports, Isaac Isiama, government had decided that they were going to use a part of the resources that is generated by the National Youth Authority to construct sporting facilities across the country to unearth talents and also help groom the available talents we've got in the country. But 5 years on, those facilities that government decided to invest about 20 million in has become proper bushes. Just maybe your tax and that of mine is manure that has aided the growth of these weeds and trees on these earmarked areas that were supposed to be grounds for us to develop our talents. Joy Sports has been running a series that we describe as Bush Resource Centers, and this is led by my colleague, Fencio Tahiru. He's been to the Azuma Nelson Youth Resource Center, a facility that then Sports Minister Isaac Isiama broke the ground for it to be rehabilitated in March 2018. He's been to Koforidua, and we have staff all the way from Yendi, all the way from Yinahine. If you take a look at those facilities, they are all a proper ISO. Good morning, everyone. I am Muftau Nabila Abdullahi, and today I'll be engaging the Chief Executive Officer of the National Youth Authority, Pius Enam Hajide. But before that, let's take a look at the Azuma Nelson Youth Resource Center. Then we come back and ask him what he makes of what he's seeing on his screen.
This is the Azuma Nelson Sports Youth Resource Center, named after legendary Ghanaian boxer Azuma Nelson. The facility was supposed to serve as a multi-purpose sports center fit enough to accommodate more than 40 different sporting disciplines when completed. Also known as the Kaneshi Sports Complex, the facility was built during the era of the Supreme Military Council and the General Achampong in the 1970s. It served as a training base for teams during AFCON 1978, which Ghana hosted and won. Since then, however, years of neglect had placed on the back burner the plans of the people running sports in the country. Various governments had made promises to upgrade the facility to its stature as a functioning multi-purpose sports center, but none had made good on their promises. But in March 2018, then Sports Minister Isaac Isiama finally commissioned renovation works to start on the facility.
We are securing the future of Ghana sports through this investment. And I can tell you, in the next 20 years, Ghanaians will remember one person called President Akufo-Addo for the huge investment he made in sports. This huge one. Across the country, we are going to do all these things. By November, you will see 10 multi-purpose youth centers. That can take off about 5,000 people. Sitting capacity 5,000. So we can even play some of the national matches. Understand? Yes, big matches. Black Queens can come and play maybe in Wa, because we're going to do one in Wa. They can go to Navrongo, go do one in Navrongo. They can go to Nyahini, go do one in Nyahini. So it's going to be across the country, spread across the country, so that everywhere you go, you have quality, modern sporting facility.
That was former Sports Minister Isaac Asiama in March 2018. It was supposed to be the dawn of a new era for sports infrastructure in the country. When completed, it was supposed to seat up to 5,000 people with a swimming pool and all kinds of adjoining facilities, including a running track to go with. And it was supposed to cost some $4 million and just 9 months to complete.
Each contractor has 9 months to complete the project. If we factor in the rainy season, it depends on the intensity of rain. It could go up to 11 or 12 months, not more.
But nearly 5 years later, this is the state of the project. In December of 2021, the new Sports Minister Mustafa Yusuf stated that the project was 90% complete.
If we are going to be able to identify talent in the various regions or our various communities, we can't do that without these facilities being completed. So government is committed, especially when we have already invested so much in these facilities. We can't abandon. And it's the same government. Government is continuous. And so the assurance can be getting from me. What I've realized that it was in phases. So we have phase 1, phase 2. So currently, I've engaged the consultant working on it and also the National Youth Authority, which is the agency that supervises those projects. So I can give you assurance that yes, those facilities will be completed on time, so that the identification of talent in the various regions where we have this facility, we can use those as a center. Even as one Nation Sports Complex, Carnation Sports Complex can also even be used during the games.
Of course.
People can go there and compete, especially on football. It's media standard. So it's something that we are working on and to ensure that we get it done. Some of them were 90%, 70%, and 80%. There are various stages of completion.
And he wasn't wrong, because at the time, the stunts were done. The pitch was done. It was looking green and lush. But barely a year later, this is the state of it. Abandoned and left to become a breeding ground for all kinds of reptiles. The Azuma Nelson Sports Complex is not befitting of the legend it's named after.
It's not befitting of the legend it is named after. Let's go on Zoom now and speak to the Chief Executive Officer of the National Youth Authority, Pius Enam Hajide. Pius, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, my brother.
How are you doing?
Fine, thank you, by grace. How are you doing too?
I'm okay. I know you have seen this video. How would you describe the video just gone by?
Well, good morning to you once again, to your cherished viewers. Let me say that I find the narration, both in your introduction and portions of the comments made by my good friend Tahiru, not entirely accurate. You made sure to mention 4 out of the 10. The 6 projects, including the whole Youth Resource Center, where they just ended 66th independence celebrations were celebrated. It's also a part of the projects we are constructing, but that was not mentioned. Dunkwa Onofin, where the anniversary for the district, that district assembly was also held, was also not mentioned. Let me inform that upon assumption of office some 2 years ago, I made a case to the governing board and the Honorable Minister, and that was accepted, that indeed these projects have been delayed, and I can explain the reasons for some of the delay in due course.
Pius, I'm not cutting you. We are running a series. We've been to Koforidua, we've been to Yendi, we've been to Dunkwa Elfin, we've been to Ninahen. So we've got a lot of them. Right on your screen is the one at Koforidua. That's right on your screen. So my question was about what you have seen. This is right behind your office. You see it every day. So the videos you've seen, the facility that the investment took place, how would you describe it? How would you describe that bush behind you?
And I'm saying to you that these are project sites that are under construction as we speak. There are 6 active sites and 4. And we have announced that, and I did the announcement myself, that to be able to complete, the management and the governing board of the authority had decided that we were not going to spread ourselves thin, because that appeared to be one of the challenges. Resources trickle in, and we share these resources across 10 resource centers simultaneously. That delays the project. So let us maximize. Let us pull all of our resources together. And within the last year, the year gone by, we were focused on 5 out of the 10, so that we can complete the 5 and then move to the next 5. Otherwise, and if I can illustrate, you are given, say, 20 million cedis a year to do construction, and you spread that 20 million over 10 project sites. That would mean that 2 million cedis to each project site. You can only do this much with that kind of resources. However, collectively, it appears to be huge. However, if you focused all of the 20 million on 1, or if you focused all of the 20 million on 2 or 5, you would notice that work would move forward greatly, and that you are able to finish some quickly. Then you can go back and concentrate on some others. That was the wisdom and the vision that management had and proposed to the governing board, which was also accepted by the Honorable Minister. So we put it out there that 5 centers, the Kaneshi Center, the Nyinehini Center, the Navrungo Center, the Yendi Center, and the whole center, they were going to be a part of this year's expedited and focused action. And that 5, which is Wa, which is Dunkwa Onofin, Koforidua, Doma Ahinkro, and Aksim. These 5 were also part of the expedited and focused 5 for the year gone by. And that's why, having been informed of this decision by the management and the board of the National Youth Authority, I would have thought that if we wanted to do an assessment, we would focus on the 5 that we ourselves have announced that we are going to focus on, not on the 5 that we ourselves have deferred action on as a matter of strategy to be able to expedite completion of the projects.
But when you defer action, and on a facility that you had earlier invested in, what it means is that you will have to invest again to bring back the facility to its state. And in fact, the earlier question I asked, Fayos, you haven't answered the question. You've gone ahead to give me a different explanation. Does this, the pictures you saw, yes or no, is it terrible?
My brother, please indulge me, but it appears that you may not have had the background that I just gave. That's why I thought it was important to establish to you that we took a deliberate decision for a certain reason. Whether you find value in our reason or not is a matter that you can explain. But I find that background may not have been available, and I took time to explain it. Now, I am saying it is not necessarily true that if you stay action on a project site with the reasoned conclusion that you want to focus so that you don't spread yourself thin, because resources are not in infinite supply. They are trickling in, and how you manage it is a question of management decision. So we took the decision to stay action on 5. So you are showing me pictures of the ones that we have stayed action on. You ask me, I'll say those pictures, honestly, they do not look good because people want to utilize the facility. But at the rate that we are mobilizing resources as a country, if we continued to use the resources in the manner that maybe initially it was conceived, that we could do 10 simultaneously all at the same time, we were going to further delay the project. And we find value in that proposition because what has happened is that as we speak, the 5 that we focused on, and then later we added 1, the whole one, you find that they are greatly advanced and are being used. The whole one, for instance, was used, like I said to you, the Dunkwanonofin one is used. You showed me shots from Koforidia. You see that Koforidia is gated, it is painted, and it is. We are now gone back to repair the field. And in due course, Koforidia will also be usable. As we speak now, if you go to Axim, the tartan tracks are being laid as we speak, the running tracks. They are being laid as we speak. And so we find value in that decision to focus on 5 out of the 10 youth resource centers. If we didn't do that, you go there, you see contractors and a few number of workers on site across the 10 regions, but the improvements will be marginal. Progress will be slow, and it will further delay the project. And that is why we took the decision that we were going to break the 10 centers into 2 broad cohorts. 5 to expedite on them for the year gone by, and 5 we are going to tackle in this year. And that's why even in this year, we already have moved, having learned lessons from that kind of strategy. Even this year, we are taking it 1 center at a time, and you have seen what we have done with Ho already. So that is why I thought that it was important to give you.
It was very necessary. It was very necessary. But Pius, you and I know that the funding for this comes from the District Assembly's Common Fund. How much is given to the National Youth Authority monthly?
The National Youth Authority does not receive funding from the District Assembly Common Fund monthly. We receive it quarterly, and just like many statutory funds in this country, they could get delayed.
So how much do you receive per quarter?
Per quarter, on the average, I'd say around 10 million.
Around 10 million. And if around 10 million and you were constructing, say, 10 multi-purpose facilities, that would mean that the money could delay, just as you mentioned, it could delay. But if you get 10 million per quarter, that also means that you are giving, say, 1 million per each region, isn't it?
No, that's problematic. You see, it's simplistic.
No, it's simplistic. It's simplistic. I'm driving at a point.
No.
I'm driving at a point. I'm driving at a point.
No. Overly simplistic. The National Youth Authority does not exist only to build 10 youth resource centers. So, there are a plethora of operations that the National Youth Authority does, and we draw on that same budget as well. So it's overly simplistic to just merely divide 10 million into 10 and give it 1 million to 10 centers.
So what percentage was dedicated to the youth resource centers? What percentage of that 10 million was dedicated to the youth resource centers?
Well, I can get to the office and give you the figures, but off the top of my mind, I think that about 50% of our funds, or a little above that, has been earmarked for these infrastructure projects, including these 10 resource centers. We are doing other infrastructure. It's not just the 10. We are doing many other projects. 50% of our resources are earmarked for those constructions.
That I'm very much aware. If you go on your website, those details are very available. But I want to have a clear understanding, because you mentioned that when you came into office, you decided to engage the board, you decided to engage the Minister of Youth and Sports so that you revise the investment into the multipurpose youth resource centers. Are you suggesting
to revise the strategy?
Revise the strategy. That's actually where I'm coming to. Are you suggesting that it was wrong to start the 10 of them at the same time?
Well, I'm not in the position to say it was wrong or it was right. Maybe the circumstances under which the decision was taken to develop the 10 facilities simultaneously at the same time may have changed. I'm not aware of that. I cannot speak to that. But the situation that we were confronted with, we thought that the best way out, so that the young people of our country who are our constituents, the people who we are building these facilities for, and mind you, these are youth resource centers. They are sports heavy, but beyond sports, there are many other attributes of these projects that inure to youth development in general. And so we thought that to be able to finish this timeously and make it available for the people of Ghana, we thought that we should focus our attention and maximize resources, and not to spread ourselves thin and move at a snail's pace. And that if we focus on a number, we will finish within a year, and then we can then move back to the other cohort and also complete them.
And this brings me to the point of or the question I asked earlier. You were the Deputy Minister of Youth and Sports when this decision to construct 10 of them took place. And if you say maybe you were not in a position to tell whether it was wrong to start, you were in there when the decision was taken.
Well, but I'm unable to speak to the nitty-gritties of why we were doing 10 all at the same time. There could have been, I'm saying that, that's why I'm saying that it's not a wrong, I'm not saying it's a wrong decision or it's a right decision. I'm just saying that the situation that I was confronted with, having resumed office as Chief Executive Officer of the National Youth Authority, the resources envelope that was available to me and the commitments and the obligations that the National Youth Authority had, what was most feasible and, in my view, most reasonable to do will be to focus on the numbers that we can do quickly and complete it. Then we can move. And I give you the illustration. You are giving 10 million. You want to spend 10 million on 10 projects. It will mean that you are spending 1 million on each project. In this day and age, you can have an estimation of what 1 million will do over a year. But if you focused, say, 2 million or 5 million on one project, you also know how far you can go. And so we thought that there was value in the proposition that let us break this down and focus so that we can finish this speedily. And I believe that upon hindsight, the average well-meaning Ghanaian who has followed the discourse, who is worried about the delay, will come back to commend the National Youth Authority greatly for the change in strategy.
So how much has been invested on each facility so far?
Well, I will have to liaise with my accounting colleagues in the office to be able to put the figure to this. It's available. We can share with you. You can notice that I'm now driving to work. I can always make the figure available. This is public money, and the people of Ghana are entitled to know. I just don't have it on the top of my mind.
Okay, so let's take a look at the facilities you are working on right now. You say you've decided to channel your energy to ensuring that 5 out of the 10 facilities are ready. What percentage of work is done so far on the 5 that you've decided to work on at the moment?
In fact, the last time I checked, and this was a couple of weeks ago, none of the 5 that we are working on is the phase 2, not the phase 1. None of them is below 90%. And that is why in our planning, we are looking at commissioning these projects in the quarter that we are in this first quarter.
And there are other people who have also suggested that if you take a look at the facilities, the 5 you have earmarked to work on, there are concerns surrounding some of the facilities. For instance, the athletics oval. Are they certified by World Athletics tartan tracks supervisors so that when athletes run on these tartan tracks, the numbers or the times they are able to clock will be recognized and appreciated by World Athletics? Are they standardized?
My brother, there's a subsisting contract that has the terms of construction, and that's what was inherited, and that's what is being implemented. I believe in the capacities of the gentlemen and ladies who packaged the program and are working on it. And these are rather technical matters that you are bringing before me. We are constructing a youth resource center that is sports heavy. The National Youth Authority is established by an act of parliament with a clear mandate. And so we do recognize that young people are largely participants and patrons of sports, but the young people have many other aspirations beyond sports. And so we are holistic in our view, and that's why we have packaged our youth resource centers. Even though they are sports heavy, they are sports plus. And so these technical issues of
standardization,
tartan track, and certification by the World Federation of Tartan Track Owners, and so on. They are matters that are beyond my ordinary knowledge, and I probably will have to confer and consult with my colleagues to be able to respond beyond what I have said.
Okay. Just before I let you go, there are two more questions I want to ask you. Have you done an assessment of the other 5 youth resource centers that you are yet to work on, and how much would be required to bring them back to life?
Well, a review of the cost of all the projects, including the 5 that is about to go on stream, is happening. You know that this contract has been delayed, like you said, for a number of years. Prices of goods have gone up. There is the argument of variations, and we are working with the relevant authorities of state to go through the processes. When that process is completed, the new and probably the final cost of the projects will be made public.
Okay, I appreciate that, but let's take a look at the first 5 you are working on. When you did the review, how much was required to bring them back to life?
No, the review, like I said, the review is ongoing.
The review is ongoing. So the review is ongoing while the work too is also ongoing, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's how government projects are done. The contractors will raise IPCs after work is done. So the contractors raise their monies, they do their work, they raise their IPCs, and then they are paid. So the resolution of the cost can always come after the completion of the project, and the payment can come after the completion of the project.
Okay, I clearly appreciate that. Pius, thank you very much for your time this morning. And just maybe, hopefully, you would be able to complete these facilities. As many Ghanaians are yearning.
My brother, let me assure you, there's not a question of maybe. The Honorable Minister, the governing board, management headed by myself, we are committed to completing these projects. And that's why we had to even alter our strategy a little. And so have all the assurances that you may desire. And please be advised that these projects will be committed. The president is interested and very keen on it. His investments in sports are really and truly unprecedented. And that is why beyond even what we are doing, there are many other infrastructure that is quite also sports heavy that the National Youth Authority is engaging. So please be assured that all of these facilities will be completed. However, let me take the time to commend your interest in our work as a media institution, and let us also say a big thank you to the people of the various areas that have had to bear with us, their patience. We recognize it, and we are grateful for their patience. We can only ask them to hold the line a little longer. In due course, all of these facilities will be completed and will be made available for use.
So when should the people expect to see their facilities and start using them? The first 5, I mean.
Like I said, for the 6 that went on stream last year, within this quarter, save my availability to go and hand them over. These projects should be handed over to the community. They are done. They are almost complete. You saw Ho. We did the national celebration in Ho. And I just informed you that that's where they also held their celebration. Wa is almost done. They are just fitting the gates. Axim is fitting the tartan tracks as we speak. So within due course, these facilities will be handed over for usage.
When you say within due course, what does it mean?
I've said this in many. I said first of all, I said this quarter, and you put further. I said within due course. You are asking for specific.
Is it May?
Dates.
Are we expected to see them in May? Are we expected to see them in June,
I believe
July,
that we will begin
April?
to see some of them even in March.
This very month.
This quarter.
This very month.
Yes. Yes, that's my expectation. Yes.
No, is it an
Some of them,
expectation,
yes.
or it is what you have given to the contractors to hand it over to you?
No. It's my expectation because that's what the contract, the arrangement we have with the contractors.
Oh, so the arrangement with the contractor is that it should be ready by the end of March?
Correct.
Okay. What about the other 5? When will you start working on them?
The preparatory works are far advanced, and we are intending to mobilize the contractors to go back onto site. And so that is also happening. Very soon you would see that construction has resumed in some of these sites. The only challenge we have with, I think, 1 or 2 of the sites is that there are some litigations, and we are consulting to see whether we are able to go back to site, even as these project sites are undergoing some form of litigation. So we will be advised accordingly. What we can do within the remit of the law, we shall do. If indeed we can go to site, even as some parties are contesting in court, we can look at it.
There are litigations on some of the facilities?
Well, I'm advised that there are some cases in court in 1 or 2 of the project sites.
Which of the project sites?
I believe that Navrongo, phase 1, and another one. I believe so.
And
I was out of the office. I was out of the office when the information came, and you know that I've been very, very involved with the celebrations of the 66th anniversary. So last week we received some notification about possible actions, and so when I get back to the office today, I shall apprise myself fully of those details. But I think on the top of my mind, Navrongo and another, I am unable to recollect the other one.
And what might be their reasons?
Well, if I read the statement of claim, I will be in a better position to respond.
Wow, that's quite interesting. But let me get back to the earlier question. Are you moving to the other 5 in April, May, June, or July?
Very, very, very soon. Maybe even before the time that you're looking at. Very soon.
Very, very soon. Maybe we've had so many very, very soon. And just maybe there are a few journalists in Ghana who have taught these facilities more.
You need to have confidence in this. The last time I said to you that we are focusing on 5 and we'll complete them, we have focused on the 5 and we have completed them. So
are you completing them or you have completed? Yes, you've completed them.
No, we have. If I say in the context in which you are speaking, we have completed them. Painting the walls they are quite negligible as compared to the total volume of work that was done. So please believe me when I say that they are completed. When you saw Koforidua, it was painting that was outstanding.
Now Koforidua was actually better than the Azure Nursing Youth Resource Center. And this is actually what is on our screen right now was the first place that we started. And I remember I was at that press conference that was held by Isaac Isiama. And you might have heard him talk about how in the next 20 years, the youth will remember one man called Nana Akufo-Addo. I conducted that interview. But in 5 years, the youth are looking at this and they're wondering whether there's a commitment to have them completed. But if you say you are committed to completing them, we'll hold you to your words, and hopefully, maybe by the end of March, when we start visiting the facilities again, we'll be better placed to have an update of what is happening across the various centers. Pius, we appreciate your time with us this morning.
I'm with you, my brother.
Thank you very much. Pius Enam Hazide, Chief Executive Officer, National Youth Authority, was my guest. Thanks very much for your time. The AM show continues right after this.
Thank you for staying after that brilliant interaction with Pius Enam Hajide. Now I serve you my blunt thoughts for today. I've titled it, Steering Ghana's Ship Aground. Chaos in High Places. Steering Ghana's ship aground. You know what it means to, run a ship aground, right? Steering Ghana's ship aground. Chaos in high places. Now this morning, as you can see behind me, there are a number of slides I'll be going through, and I'll be delving into two crucial issues. One, what has happened in Ashaiman on the back of military brutalities time and again. And two, the state of our economy. Oh, and better still, what our leaders have said in the past, a specific leader, and what they are saying now. I'll be going back in time all the way till around 2012. So we pay attention to what the president, Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo, then candidate, said, and the rhetoric he's spewing now at the State of the Nation address. But before I get into all of that, sometimes I continue with each passing day to be shocked, shattered, utterly baffled by the sort of leadership we have in this country, which is why I have termed it misleadership. Look at the entire fabric of our leadership in this country. They say one thing, do the other. They don't stick to their promises. And we ought to ask ourselves as a people, is this what we deserve? Is this the best our leaders can give to us? In manifold facets of our lives, leadership has become an utter mess, like we're seeing now. And I say it without any fear, without any favor. Look at our natural resources as a people. We have it all. We have the human resource. So why do we end up here? All the resources we have, I don't need to mention them. We've heard of them ad nauseum. We learnt about them growing up in school. Yet we're as poverty-stricken as church mouses. What exactly is happening? But the leadership debacle trickles down. And this is where the problem is. I ask myself sometimes, what are our mores as a people? What do we stand for? And no one is able to give a response because we stand for nothing. Freedom and justice is what we have in our coat of arms. Where's the freedom? And where's the justice? Where's the justice in what happened to those who live in Ashaiman and Tulaku? Where's the justice? If I'd happened to be there, just for the sake of it, maybe paying a visit to someone, and I've been apprehended, added to the bunch, flogged like an animal, and even animals don't deserve that. Would that have been justice? Come with me to the slides. Now, in terms of the activities of our military personnel, I'll also be taking you down memory lane on some of what has happened in the past and why we really need to caution ourselves moving forward. Military personnel besieged Ashaiman on Tuesday, this past Tuesday, the 7th of March, 2023, with helicopters and armored vehicles. What were they going to do? Whom were they going to apprehend? Where was the intelligence? Civilians were brutalized following the murder of a military officer. And I want to say this categorically. State in no uncertain terms what happened to Imoro Sheriff dastardly act. Whoever perpetrated that should face the full rigors of the law, just as we wanted to do with Major Mahama. But to victimize people in the manner we did is idiocy. It is nonsensical. And those at the higher echelons of the military know that what I am saying is correct. Where will you ever go and see the military do this? Unless in republics that we do not want to talk about. Now, in the past 3 years, we've recorded more than 10 military brutalities, incidents of military brutality. Let's go to our next slide. Let's take a look at them. February 7, 2017, 4 died after a joint police-military force allegedly opened fire on a crowd in Fuase in the Echima Kwaoma area. The reason? They were protesting against the siting of the Echima Kwaoma district capital, Akadie, instead of Fuase. That was it. On May 30, 2017, military troops stormed and punished villagers in Dentrabwase by beating and harassment. It was on the back of the dastardly act of taking the life of Major Mahama. On April the 5th, 2017, a 28-year-old man was shot dead at the Ashaiman market by a soldier. You remember that one? I'm sure you do. It was on the back of the enforcement of COVID-19 lockdown protocols. COVID-19 in T. Someone lost his life. July 29, 2021, there was a joint team of police and soldiers who clashed with residents of Idra, leading to 2 deaths and 9 injuries. We set up a committee on that. It was over a protest concerning the killing of social activist Ibrahim Muhammad, also known as Kaka. All of these things have happened in our country. And the impact that many of us do not see starts from here. Ghana's Human Rights Index. Over the years, it's been falling. Look at right before 2016, we stood at 5.2. Just take a look, fellow Ghanaians, at where we are now. 4.1. That is where we are. It has been dipping consistently. In fact, right around getting to 2017, it appreciated, and since that time, it's been a decline. This cannot be mistaken. There's a trend, and we must nip the trend in the bud. Let's go to the next slide. Now, if you look at Ghana's Democracy Index, we've spoken about the Human Rights Index. If you look at our Democracy Index, you would also realize something startling. Before 2012, right around 2012, our index stood at around 6.02. It stood level all the way till around 2013. It appreciated all the way to 2015, the highest we have seen. And then from 2016, it has been declining to that figure that you see in 2022. And mind you, if you look at the range, 1 to 3.9 is an authoritarian regime, 4.4 to 5.9 is a hybrid regime, 6 to 7.9 is a flawed democracy, 8 to 10 is a full democracy. We're a flawed democracy, but we keep falling in terms of the ranking. And that is a very problematic subject that we ought to be looking at as a country. We ought to consider. Now let's move the conversation forward. I now want to focus a bit on His Excellency, the President, and what he's been saying about the economy. But before I get in there, I'm going to show you why many people in Ghana, especially young people, are becoming apathetic. You see what happened in Nigeria recently? Apathetic because leaders promise and don't fulfill. Kasa kwa. Yanufu. And so yenye. In 2012, before the elections, there was an engagement with those who were going to stand, prominent figures who were going to contest that election, including the former President Mahama and including then candidate Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. I want you to watch this video with me of what he said then about managing an economy and what he's saying now in the recent SONA. Watch this video.
I think that the most effective way that we can have a debt portfolio for our country that is sustainable is to make sure that the NDC loses this election in December. Kicking out the NDC will be the surest way we can to protect the debt structure of our country. Why do I say that? In the 4 years in which they have been in power, they have more than tripled our national debt from 9 billion cedis, which was at the end of Kufuor's period, to 28 billion cedis today. In the 4 years of the NDC administration, they have contracted more debt than all the governments of our country, from Kwame Nkrumah right down to John Agyekum Kufuor. That is the nature of the situation confronting our country. And I dare say the President would agree with me that without the rebasing of the economy, the debt profile of our country today will be getting towards epic proportions. So we need, when we're talking about the debt profile of our country, to bear in mind 2 things. One, the areas into which the debt goes. And I agree with some of my previous speakers that the productive investment and the rate of return on them is a critical one. Equally critical is the value for money of the transactions that the debt brings about. We need to look at that I've given some examples of public procurements that are taking place in our country on an extremely inflated rate. Once again, we need to look at this. You're talking about loans that are given, and inside the loans, the arrangements for determining value for money remain very opaque and unclear. How can you persuade the Ghanaian people that debts are being contracted in these circumstances that are there to push forward their future? We intend to be extremely disciplined about the contraction of debt. We're first of all going to respect the teachings of the national budget and treat it as precious. We will not be stepping outside the constraints of the budget. We are going to make sure that we reduce considerably areas of corruption in the construction and execution of some of these projects. These are the critical matters that our people are looking for leadership on. That we are not going to get ourselves in airline and other aircraft and other transactions that leave so many questions to be answered. The 28 billion is even without the latest Chinese. Thank you so much.
Ghana 4. The Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Who said that in 2012? Is he the same Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo who said the things he did recently at the SONA? I don't know, but let's look at the facts. The president said at SONA 2023, our currency has been buffeted, the inflationary rate has been very high. For the first time in our lives, debt exchanges have become the language of everyday conversation. Now, who calls them? Me? On to the next slide. Let me state emphatically that we have not been reckless in borrowing and in spending. It is worth noting that the debts we are servicing were not only contracted during the period of this administration. Listen to the rhetoric. I dare say no one can suggest we have overborrowed or spent recklessly, even when global bodies, our own professors of economics and finance here have said that we have overborrowed. Well, let me state emphatically, Mr. President, that we have overborrowed. We have dug ourselves into a pit, Mr. President, and you have superintended over that. Look at our public debt in billions of cedis. We start from a base rate from around, at the start of our fourth Republican experiment. Then you come to around 2008, 9.7 billion. That was our debt stock. You come to somewhere around 2013, 53 billion. Incremental, but still manageable, looking at the progress of the country. You come to 2016, 2015, thereabouts, it's 122 billion. Let's do some quick mathematics. This, this would be about fivefold this sum, a little over fivefold. This would be a little over twofold this sum in 2013, thereabouts. Now, ladies and gentlemen, how do we explain moving from 9.7 billion, 122 billion to 575.7 billion Ghana cedis? This administration has accrued about 480 billion in addition to our debt stock from 122 billion. But it's not a problem. Next slide. Borrowing is not a problem, else even the Americans wouldn't be borrowing. But the point is, when you borrow, what do you use the money for? Does it inure to the benefit of the ordinary Kofi, the ordinary Amma, the ordinary Razak, the ordinary Nina? That's the point. Do these borrowings lead to projects that are self-sustaining, fund-generating, so that over time they pay for themselves? If I were to ask you, watching me this morning, the 570-something billion that we owe, the 480 plus billion cedis that have been, added on to our debt stock, what can we see and say that, oh, we invested them in this particularly? What would you say? Free SHS, it's only a few billions of Ghana cedis. Very few that we've spent on free SHS. Intisikano, yedi yedeng, ewahe, anasikano yakojedi yedeng. So just to wrap my piece this morning, 2000 to 2008, NPP under Kufuor The amount added to the debt stock then, 4.82 billion. We arrived at a total debt of 9.7 billion. 2009 to 2012, under Mills, 26.25 billion. The total then was 36 billion. 2013 to 2016, NDC, John Mahama, 86.17 billion. That was added to the debt stock, making it 122 billion. 2017 to 2022, November. We're not even adding up to now. Now, this is an economy that was struck by COVID, but got some 25.1 billion Ghana cedis as a boon. COVID was a curse and a blessing. We didn't take advantage of the blessing. It's like that story about a half full or half empty glass. We choose to look at it as half empty, but it was half full. NPP, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Amount added to the debt stock, 453.5 billion. Your total debt stock, 575.7 billion. Need I say more? But we cannot throw our hands in the air in despair. We must trudge on. But if these misleaders continue like this, only God knows when our beloved country, Ghana, will capitulate. We pray against that, but if you keep doing the wrong things, it's only a matter of time. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. I share my thoughts blunt, raw, hot, just the way it is, because guess what? Someone must say it. And I will stand in the gap and say it for God and country. Thank you for watching.
Bema camp. Okay. So when we got to Bema camp, they were training us. They were training us for some time before they called us for interview, and moreover, the high-ranking military people over there weren't allowing them to touch us. But when they try to touch us, they don't let them see that they are touching us. Yeah, that's when they will start to beat you if the high-ranking people, high-ranking military men are not looking at us. That's where they try to beat us.
You also have marks on your body?
Yeah, I do have marks on.
Let me see that. Whoa. Wait, what caused this? What did they use to beat you?
Any weapon they having on their hands. Others were using rope.
Oh no! No. Well, yeah, I know. He still have some bruises behind him, but we can't show that on TV.
They were using...
These are assault marks behind you?
Yes, sir.
What kind of weapons?
Others were using neem tree branches and cables, PVC pipes, and all types of things that they are holding.
So when were you released? Were you released on the same day?
Yeah, I was released on the same day around 11 p.m. as my colleague friend said it.
So you were also only in boxer shorts?
Yes.
No singlet or anything?
No dress.
And they dropped you at what?
A Sherman runabout.
I bet you calm down. He has marks all over his body. Let me see. So this is his leg. This is the exact spot where the 21-year-old Sheriff Imoro fell. Residents here tell me that they discovered the body here early in the morning. We're told that he had run from a distance of about 300 meters after he was stabbed, but couldn't continue with his journey and then fell right here. And this is the point where the community people discovered the body. I've been speaking to some of the residents, and one of the people I've been speaking to is Beatrice Bochu. Beatrice Bochu's husband was forcibly taken away by the military after he stepped out to attend to a call of nature. Beatrice Bochu tells me that she only realized when she came out and saw her husband's slippers and toothbrush outside their home. She says her husband is the breadwinner of the family, and now that he's been taken away, she's not heard from him since Tuesday. She says their child, a little girl, is unwell, but she's unable to take her to the hospital because she does not have the money.
So, and any 3 days, I'm Friday night, I'm see a canamicuno near around or sorry, or by Saturday 2 o'clock.
Okay, well, she says that the incident happened on Friday. Friday when the incident happened, her husband was not at home. He had gone to church and then returned on Saturday, we say.
Saturday 2 o'clock, no by.
Saturday 2 o'clock, no by. Came back home at Saturday 2 o'clock in the morning, Anopana area. Saturday in the afternoon, okay.
Tuesday night, 7 and no pono, nim said, Bibi, because we are wanting to all private, and I'm witching or into the pop up, Hana, me honi, Papa, and me honi brush or the PC were bounty. He says,
well, she says on Tuesday when the military stormed this community, her husband had stepped out to attend to nature's call. At the point when he stepped out, that was when he was picked up by the military. She says she came out and then saw the toothbrush that he was using outside, right outside, and then his slippers also outside here. And see, from Tuesday, and then Wednesday, and then Thursday, what's the one thing?
Like one frame in so 3 days near Akolano Pony home fan. 3 days near, on no coban son a ye did. 3 days near me and Didi. Minis cancer media Akolani Beko Hospital.
Oh, she's very distressed. She says that since the husband was picked up by the military on Tuesday, she's not heard anything from him. She says that her child is sick. She's unable to take the little girl to the hospital because she does not have money to do that. And since Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, Obiantin and Kai, one more and your morning, the community and
Patro Musomu, Banan Casano, their own frame, but maybe some cofona mobile, or Muko mobile, and dear Musomu, I'm an in 9 poapra, ni Simbaku, ni Hase, who non Timin and Papa.
Well, she says personally she's not heard anything from her husband, but she says for those who were with him, who were arrested together with him, they said they saw him with a swollen cheek and also injured, has a leg injury also, but she has not heard anything, from the husband. Where did they did?
Only on no coban son and ye did like Miniska. Minye Juma Miniska, no coban son of the Bibianiho. Fitianopa mean Didi, 3 days near me Didi. Or come with me by Miniska made it. Like what Niho Hatch and American son of Mamiska made it. Minio Pia, this or no pen coban son and ye did. No Hushi, Omunjano non brefi, or no Nebeshe, one bar, Minyaska fan Colanico Hospital.
David Kemi is a former teacher. He has a deep cut on his head. And then he also has some assault marks at his back. He says the soldiers who meted out those beatings to them must be made to face the full rigors of the law. He says many of the residents here are innocent and had no idea about what happened to the slain soldier.
Somewhere 4 o'clock, I opened my gate. When I opened the gate, I saw the armor car under the shade of the tree, just at the back of the shade of the tree, and the one commando here, standing here, and he used the gun on me. So he asked me to come. So I thought he needed an information. But then I was my boxer. I didn't know anything. So when I came, he just asked me to go closer. But then the water was on the ground. So when I was there, before I could realize, about 3 of his team came around. They started slapping me, and then they asked me to roll on the ground. In the process, I saw a woman. There's a market closer here, a Shaba market. The woman also was going to the market. They asked her to put things down, and she asked her to join me. As an elderly woman, a man was traveling, but then they asked him, and because the man was not responding, they started beating him. So we were beating the 3 of us. And then they asked her to do pressure. In the process, then they marched out to the junction. Before I could realize, I see the bigger armor car with about over 100 commandos armed with the various, tools. stick, iron rod, or what have you. So about 100. So they started beating us. In fact, I received about over 50 again because they come on rotation. This person will beat you, another person will follow up. The stick, the various cane to beat under your foot, on your buttocks, at the back, on your head. But this cut is from the belt. The belt that the man lose the belt and they hit it, and I was trying to parade it, and I had a cut.
Is this his belt?
I don't.
You were trying to use his belt on your head?
Yeah, the belt. There's a metal on the belt. There's a metal. So they started beating up from 4:30 to 6 o'clock.
Goswe Kumakil is one of the organizers of a press conference calling for justice and punishment for the perpetrators of Tuesday's brutality. Goswe tells me that he was beaten in this neighborhood and then taken to Michelle Camp and then later to Burma Camp, where they were subjected to another round of beatings. He says they were left around 11:30 p.m. and they came back home in their boxer shorts. He has been narrating the harrowing situation. He has been narrating his ordeal to me.
People were naked in clothes, nothing was on them. We were beaten excessively to the extent that it was 8 a.m. When they brought their car, took us to military Michelle Camp. We were detained at Michelle Camp for about 3 to 4 hours. When they went for another operation at Ashaman Tulaku and brought another suspect of about 100 and something to join us. So with that, they said, oh, then their head office, the big men at the high hierarchy hut wants to have an interrogation with that at Burma Camp. With that, they came for us from the military Michelle Camp to Burma Camp in an hours of 4 p.m. So we went to Burma Camp from 4 p.m. At Burma Camp, we were drilled.
So the first place you were taken to was Michelle Camp.
Michelle Camp.
And then from Michelle Camp, you were taken to Burma Camp.
We were taken to Burma Camp, where the military police were and the investigation was done. Whilst the investigation are done, we were beaten by the military men that are there. That whilst they are hurt, their friend was asking for help. We, the community, did not give them help. And so far with that also, they said we as Shama people are on hot social media platform saying that soldiers are nothing to do with us. But we, some people, have nothing to do with social media. So we, some of us who have been victimized, are really innocent of this victim, and we know nothing about this.
So at Burma Camp, what happened at Burma Camp? Were you subjected to further beatings?
Oh, we were beaten totally. We were beaten. You roll on the floor. You eat like a dog on the floor. They'll stamp on you.
Wait, what were you eating on the floor?
You know, like a friend will hold you like this. Let me show you. Oh, bugger. Like you sleep like this. Like this. You'll be like this. Then one person will hold your leg. Then you'll be like this. Like this. Then you do okay. So we did this for over 3 to 4 hours. After this exercise, you will roll on the floor. You roll on to excessively that their watchdogs will be following you. When you are in this coordination and you want to have a nature score living, they said 1 second, 2 seconds, which is not good because we are human beings and we have our right to speak for ourselves, and we want justice to prevail. So thank you very much.
At what time did they leave you?
Well, we are left. They left us around 10:30 that way.
Okay.
And they took us from official town, but bringing us home, they left us at Timber Market with only a boxer short and no tops.
Wait, when you were going, were you wearing a shirt?
We were not. We were picked up from official town with no top.
You're not allowed to wear anything?
We are not allowed to wear dress. We were bare-chested like my gentleman, but with only boxer shorts. From here to Michelle Camp to Burma Camp. In bringing us back, we were left at Timber Market, the runabout, naked like that, for us to come back to our residence, which is not good.
Another resident, Mauto Dupe, who says he was also beaten by the soldiers, says justice must be served, and it must be served now.
It's unfair. It's unfair. Look at me. Did I have the courage to beat a military man? Look at me very well. Am I so fit and beat a military man or kill a military man? If you're going to want to kill a fowl, I feel pity to kill a cow. A fowl. Why is all this? We want justice. Justice, those who are from whatever they are, come down here and do this kind of unnecessary things. They have to bring them to book. It's not good at all. Eh? Where is the human right? The human right that we are talking about every day. Even the government itself is talking about human right. Where is our right? Where is our right right now? You see?
8:30 here on the AM show. Thank you so much for staying with us. I'm Bernice Abubeidu Lansa. And what you just saw was a wrap of events put together by my colleague Maxwell Agbagba on his visit to a shaman yesterday. Well, to help us talk about the many angles that have developed as a result of this incident, we have Adib Sani, a security analyst, joining us, and Professor Kojo Apieje Ichia. He is a lecturer at the University of Ghana's Faculty of Law. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining the program this morning. I'm grateful. Let me start with you, Prof. How did you hear about this incident, and what were your initial thoughts about it?
I feel disturbed very much. I feel dismayed. I feel disappointed. And I begin to wonder if I'm dreaming or I'm living in Ghana today, 2023, a country that has returned to democratic rule since 1992, with a constitution that grants various forms of rights for the people, and being a party to many international human rights treaties. I feel completely shocked, and I cannot have the words to express my anger and disdain at what the people have been subjected to. It creates a very bad image on Ghana's record as a democratic state.
What about you, Adib?
Well, I'm absolutely gobsmacked. I'm disappointed. And a friend who is based in the UK told me about how he was with a British friend of his. He got the picture showing the people piled up with soldiers towering over them. And his British friend asked him, is this a picture of the slave trade era? And he told him that no, it is a picture of Ghana today. It is absolutely shocking. And it makes me wonder what exactly it is the military sought to gain from that protocol that made it almost look like Ghana was at war, or it was a major counter-terrorism operation. I think it is a national day of shame, and it doesn't have to end with an apology. No, because when you do that, you continue perpetuating and incentivizing more military officers into thinking that the uniform gives them that false sense of invincibility, and that cannot be allowed to continue in 21st century Ghana.
Adib, we know that the military by nature isn't trained to deal with civilians, and all they know is force and brutish manner of doing things. Should they have gone there in the first place? Obviously, this involved their man. We are told that this was a high command sanctioned operation. But knowing their training, their background, and the argument is that they do not know any other way to do things but this way, should they have gone there in the first place?
Okay, so let's put some things into perspective. Fine. In the first place, it was an illegal operation because this is a purely interior matter. You don't need an expert to be able to decipher between interior and defense matters. So they actually took the work of the police and arrogated themselves powers that didn't exist in our statutes. Secondly, it is instructive to note that our military is one of the most respected in the world. We have contributed soldiers to many peacekeeping operations as far away as Lebanon. In Rwanda in 1994, when all countries abandoned Rwanda, the Ghanaian contingent was there under Romeo Dallaire, under the UN. And Liberia, when ECOMOG was formed, the first commanding officer is Ghanaian. And even in Ghana, the military is one of the most respected institutions. Unfortunately, in recent times, the attitude of some of these adrenaline-filled young officers is not helping the perceptions or opinions people now have about the military. That operation was needless because it wouldn't achieve anything. I understand over 70 people were arrested. And I told someone, mark it where water won't touch, all of them would be released because it is not the work of the military to go arrest criminals. I mean, anytime you see the military involved, then definitely it is a police-military joint operation. But police would be at the helm of affairs. They would take the lead, then the military would follow.
Actually, Adib, sorry to interject, but just by way of information, over 150 people were rounded up. We know 100 of them were released. We are told that the rest have been handed over to the Tema police for further investigation and possible prosecution. But you mentioned something. This is an interior matter and should have been handled by the police. Prof, some legal minds or experts have questioned why the president was silent over the matter. But we also haven't heard from the Interior Minister, neither have we heard from the IGP.
Yes, that is a very big gap that we see in the whole unfolding story, because this is clearly the jurisdiction of the police service. That is clearly stated in the Constitution, stated in the Police Service Act. And so it beats the mind of anybody to see the silence, the loud silence coming from the IGP, as well as the Minister of Interior. And you only hear the Minister of Defense and his deputy coming on air and singing the praises of the military and showering that hallowed status on them, that they are untouchables. So I think that is where the Ministry of the Interior and the IGP have really shirked their responsibilities in making sure that law and order, which is in the purview of their mandate, is made to work. We see a situation where even the police started some investigations, and according to sources, they actually made some arrests. So why would that responsibility be hijacked from them and taken over by the soldiers, and they didn't respond or have not responded up to this point in any way, especially when there are clear breaches of procedures and laws that should have been followed. And so it's very shocking that we are not hearing from the IGP.
The victims are requesting compensation. Amnesty International agrees and says they should be compensated. But let's delve a bit more into the legal aspects of this matter. We know the police are the ones to make arrests. We know what the procedures are when you pick somebody, how long you can keep them for, the bail period, etc. All those were violated because obviously this is not even within the jurisdiction of the military. And so when they do these things, you can't even call it an arrest, Prof. Am I right? Some have called it an abduction because military people don't make arrests. So on the legal score, what does this also do to us as a country that prides itself in having a good judicial system? Even though there have been questions raised over the years. But, I mean, considerably, there are those who say that. I mean, we have laid down procedures that must be followed. What does this action do to that system that we have created?
What the soldiers did is an extrajudicial process they took. It's therefore shocking that the Deputy Minister of Interior talked about the fact that they sanctioned the operation. So
Deputy Minister of Defense.
Yeah, the Deputy Minister of Defense said the practice was, the whole operation was sanctioned. by the government. And so it tells you clearly that the military is running rough shoulder. The powers have been taken over by the military, and nobody is questioning that. And so that is a situation where we have serious illegalities being committed here, because that is the work of the police. Apart from that, the soup exercise that was taken is clearly also a violation of the presumption of innocence of these people. By subjecting them to the beatings and so on, you have declared them as guilty of the offense even before they have the opportunity to be heard. And the torture that they went through, the situation where they were subjected to some sort of violence, which clearly demeaned them and violated their dignity, is something that should be taken very seriously. The military is not supposed to arrest people. And so in that respect, the military is just like any ordinary citizen of the country. We can only arrest where there is a reasonable suspicion or where you see the person actually committing the offense. This is not a situation that caused the military to go into that operation. And this is not a conflict zone. In a conflict zone where the military is undertaking an operation and they have been ambushed or hijacked, then they can call in extra troops to help. Right. This is not a situation where the police said, we have been overwhelmed, so we need extra help. So military, come in and help us. So clearly, that order from high command is a violation of the laws of the country. And to also say that it was an intelligence-led operation even makes the whole thing farcical, because an intelligence-led operation is based on having information. Sometimes these activities are done covertly, and you will not even hear of it because you have information that you have a targeted places that you are going to go to and people you are going to arrest. And so it's clinical. It is done in a way that with a high level of professionalism, these all don't make the mark if you check the boxes. And it clearly tells you how much the dignity of these people have been violated. Cruel, inhuman, and degrading treatment is what has been meted to citizens of the country. Even non-citizens are entitled to such rights. Right. And therefore, to meet them to ordinary citizens of the country is very appalling.
We've established the illegality of this operation. What then are the options available to these victims?
Well, I think that one of the other illegalities we see here being played out is the fact that those arrested have not been granted bail. And we all know that within 48 hours after arrest, you're entitled to be granted bail or you are taken to court and charged. And so all these issues call for some steps that will be taken, both from the point of view of criminal law and human rights law. In the context of criminal law, one of the things I've said is the bail issue. And where we're talking about human rights, we also see where even where you are arrested, you're entitled to a lawyer. And you're entitled to give your statement in a language that you understand. And it should lead to a situation where you are charged or you are allowed to go scot-free. All these issues have been violated. The avenue is open for the victims. SRAJ is one place to go to. The court is one place to go to. Parliament, as an institution, can set up a probe or conduct investigations into this. Unfortunately, the Committee on Interior and Defense says they are waiting until next week, which is it's another way of shirking responsibility, because this is a situation where we need immediate action. You go to the ground, you gather the information, and you immediately be seen to be working to bring justice to the people.
But to be fair, some conversations have started. We know the ranking member of the committee told us that the military high command had apologized for the brutalities and the activities of its men who were sent for this particular operation. So they haven't visited the scene yet, but we know that there are some engagements that have happened. Prof, hold on for me. Let me go to Adib. Adib, there are those who say what we witnessed in Ashaman is a culmination of past events that have not been addressed. Major one, is the Major Mahama incident, and how the military feels that these people are attacking the force by attacking men in uniform. There are those who see this as a crime. I mean, it could have happened to anybody. And there are those who say, no, it goes beyond that. It is not just a crime. It is an attack on the force, and the force must respond in equal measure. Do you agree that what we are seeing is a combination of major events that have not been addressed?
I strongly doubt it. And we need to call the operation what it is. It is unbridled thuggery. And there's no way that can be rationalized. Indeed, there are some fundamental issues that needs to be addressed. But you don't take a whole community to ransom for the actions of a few. That few, we don't even know if they are from there or if they are even at location. As a criminal researcher, I do know that mostly when perpetrators engage in such heinous crimes, they are quick to leave the area. So it is possible that we might have not even been able to arrest a single one of them. Okay, and the information about the killing of Imoru Sharif is also somewhat murky. Was he killed because he's a soldier? Is it not the case of a domestic issue gone haywire? Was he targeted by a criminal gang in that area? Is it an old beef that played out in such a gruesome manner? That we don't know. So for anyone to think that the operation is justified because of what happens to soldiers, I think it is tantamount to mob mentality. Because in the first place, those individuals decided to take matters into their own hands by lynching. So if the military also decides to take matters into their own hands by going on such a dastardly, cowardly operation, what separates them from those who did the lynching in the first place? Fine. I think that there might have been some delay in the investigation process. And that, from my sources on the ground, incensed the military, who also decided to, go out there. But that operation sought to achieve nothing. Absolutely nothing. What I think our focus should be on is to address the fundamentals. And what are the fundamentals? One, the court system, the justice, system. Unfortunately, Major Mahama issue is still in court. And it makes me wonder why such a case can linger for so long. And I think largely that is what is also motivating people into perpetrating such crimes, knowing full well that the worst case scenario, the case might drag on for 1, 2, 3, 4 years. At the point, the government might not be interested in it. Okay? So, to a large extent, I mean, let me crave Professor's indulgence. I think the justice system has failed.
And I was going to Prof on that score because, Prof, it's possible the military feels that with this example we've just cited of Major Mahama, look, we allowed you to handle it your way, we didn't get the results. How about do it our way? What do you think about that?
Certainly that will create a law of the jungle, and that will put the whole country in a state where might is right. And so the soldiers can take the law into their own hands because they have the power of the gun. And so they just wield it and weaponize the whole situation. And so that will not solve the problem. It is true, we all agree that justice is slow in the country. For such situation, there should have been special court set up to deal with the matter. But for the soldiers to say that that case has taken so long, therefore they want to take the law into their own hands, go on a revenge spree, is very unfortunate. Because They are not special people. In some ways, it is the way the Minister of Defense has spoken, which seems to give them that glorified image and to justify what they are doing. That is not how the law should work. If the law is slow, we should find ways to make it work faster. And so that's excuse or grounds for trying to justify this invasion and perpetrate all these acts of barbarity and savagery on ordinary citizens cannot be justified in any way. The soldiers, in any case, have some court processes. They have some legal processes that they can follow, and I think that is one area that could also have been triggered to deal with such matters.
The other thing, Prof, is what exactly the military's motive was for going there. We are told in that statement released that they went there to get the perpetrators of the lynching that led to the young soldier's death. We heard from a victim in that report we played before I came to you, one of them saying the soldiers told them that when Imoro was calling for help, the community members didn't offer it, and so it was a form of punishment for them. My colleague here at JoyNews, Jojo Kobna, has done some stories about these brutalities meted out to citizens across the country. There was one incident of some soldiers accusing a young boy of stealing their laptop. They melted plastic on him and all that. And it went to Shraj, and the soldiers were asked to compensate. In this matter, what can we do? We've spoken about what options are available to the victims, but what must be done for the military to understand that, yes, your men have been attacked, but you cannot continue this way? What for you will be that strong indication to the military?
It actually seems to be blowing hot and cold. In one's breath, they are saying that they wanted to arrest the perpetrators of the act. And in another breath, they're saying those people that they meted out those brutalities on were because they didn't help one of their own who was in need. These, as we said, are not justifiable. Now, to be able to deal with this problem, the point we need to make is that the soldiers, according to the Constitution, have a particular role to play. Their role is ensuring the security of the state. External security matters are in their hands. They are only engaged in internal security where there is a civil war or some sort of disturbance in the country which has escalated to a level that the police cannot handle. And so that is where they should draw the line, that this is where their responsibilities end. If it comes to justice issue, the police initiates that, works with the Office of the Attorney General, the case goes to court, the matter is resolved at that level. Another way, so where we attempt to justify what the soldiers have done, especially coming from the Minister of Interior and his deputy, it gives the soldiers that special status that they can go and molest and do whatever they want, and they cannot be touched by the law. Indiscipline is in the country, but you cannot say that the soldiers is responsible for dealing with indiscipline in the country. We have witnessed military regimes in the country, and we know the brutalities that were meted out to ordinary persons. We said that we don't want to go back to that period. So we returned to constitutional rule since 1992. And for that matter, the soldiers are supposed to be even apolitical. They are not supposed to be engaged in political related activities. And so the lines should be drawn so that they know where they stand and what they can do and what they cannot do. It is the responsibility of the IGP to be given the power to arrest these soldiers who went on that revenge spree and make sure that they are prosecuted. That is the only way we can bring sanity into the police. We know what happened in Ejura, we know what happened in Wa, and we know the results and how the fact that there was just a slap on the wrist for those who committed these acts. It should stop now, and so that people would know that this is what the police, military can do and cannot do. They have been involved in land guardism and all those other practices. It is time to stop. There is even a High Court decision which says that the military cannot engage in such brutalities. So people should get to understand that. Therefore, I feel appalled and overwhelmed when there is some justification, even from high-placed sources, trying to say that the military, when one of their own is affected, they will go all out to ensure that justice is done. That is not justice. And it cannot justify it in any way in a democratic state.
Adib, what for you will be the strongest indication to the military that this cannot continue?
Accountability, 1. Accountability, 2. Accountability, 3. Unfortunately, like Professor mentioned, the unapologetic posture of especially the Deputy Defense Minister is adding insult to injury.
He says he would apologize for the brutalities, but not for the operation.
Good. So how did the brutalities culminate? Because of this needless, illegal operation. So it doesn't even have to end with apologizing for the operation, but it has to end with a thorough investigation into what happened, right from the very top to the very bottom. And whoever is found culpable must be dealt with, because this is becoming one too many. And I must say, categorically, without mincing words, that it is in the best interest of the military for accountability to prevail. Because like I always say, without the civilians, it is almost impossible for the military to be able to fulfill their mandate. But if you have a civilian population that sees you as not part of them, you're bound to have them become uncooperative with you. There will be societal rejection, and that would only make matters worse. So I think that on this occasion, it doesn't have to be yet another statistic. It doesn't have to be business as usual. With a slap on the wrist, go and don't do it again. But they keep doing it. The Kwa case is a classical point that we can revisit. You know, when you take a look at the punishment regime, it is laughable. And that is what is motivating a lot of these officers into thinking that the uniform grants them that immunity. It doesn't have to go that way. And one more important thing, it is illegal under our laws, local and even international, to group punish. You don't do it. It is unacceptable, you know. And in some cases, it's even crimes against humanity. All right. So I think that certain persons, especially within the military, have answers to give to the questions that some of us within the security space are asking.
Finally, arguably, this may deepen the already frosty relationship between the civilian populace and the military. You just mentioned what happened in Wa, the examples of Ijura, examples of what happened with Major Mahama, and now this one. How do we ensure that in the process of finding the perpetrators of this heinous crime against a soldier, we are also mending the broken relationship so that we don't have incidents like this whenever there's a trigger or a point of tension? Let me start with you, Prof, and I'll end with you, Adib.
I think Mr. Sani talks about accountability. That is what should be done. There's accountability mechanisms that are in place that should be made to work. And the commander-in-chief is also should make sure that he lets these systems work. The soldiers are not to be given specialized treatment. Somebody was even telling me that it's because maybe they are afraid of a possible coup d'etat. That's why they are treating the soldiers this way. I wouldn't go that route, but at least it creates that perception that people may have that why are you treating the soldiers this way? So there is a need for the laws to work. The laws are there, and they should be made to work. The Inspector General of Police should has a role to play in this. Parliament has a role to play in this. Shraj has a role to play in this. At least in this situation, we see Shraj coming out to condemn the practice. There is the need for the victims to present their cases before Shraj, and we are working on that so that Shraj can take the matter up. Parliament has a role to play in this. The executive can still mend fences. And I think that we also have the security councils, the regional security council, the district security council, even the national security council. They should come in here. And where necessary, there are processes involved, setting up tribunals and so on, to deal with some of these matters under the Security and Intelligence Act. So all these mechanisms should be triggered. And the soldiers should come out with a proper apology. In fact, that's press release that came out didn't involve any apology at all. The one that was made by the Deputy Minister of Defense and the Minister himself were unfortunate and, in fact, irresponsible apologies. I don't think this is an apology properly so-called. And it shouldn't end at apology. It should result in compensation. The soldiers themselves should come and say, this is what we have done wrong. And going forward, it is not going to be repeated, and these people should be handed over to the police to be punished.
Thank you, Prof. Adib, you have the final word.
Excuse my French, but I think at this point in time, some persons should have even been resigned or even been fired if truly we're a serious country. Just recently, there was a train disaster in Greece. The transport minister, who wasn't the driver of that train, who didn't know about the train moving from a station to another point, resigned. Okay, so I think that hairs have to roll because of what has happened, because it has brought us a lot of shame as a country. Secondly, we need to start dialogue and talking about the justice system and how we can grease the wheels so it is able to move in a faster way. Delayed justice doesn't necessarily grant fair justice. And that is something we need to pay attention to. And there's a need for public education. People should be made to understand that we are not a banana republic. We're a country that is governed by the rule of law, and you don't have the locus to take matters into your own hands by engaging in acts of lynching. With that in mind, I'm pretty sure we'll get the necessary support from the communities, which would complement efforts by the courts, by the executive, and even by the security services in ensuring that this practice is nipped in the bud once and for all.
I appreciate your time here this morning. Adib Sani is a security analyst. He's been sharing his thoughts with us. Earlier, you heard Prof. Prof is a lecturer at the University of Ghana's Faculty of Law, Professor Apieji Itia. Thank you so much for joining the conversation, and hopefully we will get some remedies to this. As I said earlier, Shraj says that it will investigate this if it's petitioned. Amnesty International has asked for compensation for the victims and has said that this should be investigated not necessarily by the military, but by another body to ensure that the investigation is proper and accepted by all parties. And on your screen there, you see that statement by Amnesty International. It says it's taking notice of a video recording making rounds on social media and other news outlets of alleged military brutality in Ashaman. Let's bring you excerpts of this. According to media reports, a mandate was issued by the military high command to deploy military personnel into Ashaman to search for the culprits of the crime. This unfortunately led to innocent civilians facing brutality from the military personnel. A series of human rights abuses involving, but not limited to, flogging, restricting free movement of residents, and breaking into people's homes were meted out to the persons of Ashaman constituency. To this effect, innocent people have been hurt both physically and psychologically due to this inhumane act. Amnesty International, Ghana, is against all forms of violence and human rights abuses and condemns the violence meted out to the military and civilians. The military is to take a step back and allow the Ghana Police Service conduct thorough investigations into the unfortunate killing of the soldier. I would like to respectfully remind the President of Ghana, who is the Commander-in-Chief of the Ghana Armed Forces, the Minister of Interior, the leadership of the Ghana Armed Forces, and other authorities involved in law enforcement in Ghana that under their international human rights obligations, they must promptly, independently, thoroughly, and effectively investigate this unfortunate incident. So there's more to that. You can get more on myjoyonline.com, but basically calling out the President, the Interior Minister, to look into this and do something about it. You're still watching the AM show with me, Bernice Abubedu-Lansa. We'll be back with more. Do stay with us. Bernice Abubedu-Lansa. It's now time to talk about our environment. You know how important that is, right? Yes, because it affects our general well-being. Talk of climate change, talk of pollution, so many things attached to the environment and its importance to our existence. This morning, I've been joined by the country director, Pure Earth Ghana. It's a non-profit NGO involved in doing work around the environment, and the board chairman of Pure Earth Blacksmith Initiative, Conrad Meyer. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Good morning.
And let me just start by asking what Pure Earth is all about. Let me start with you, Esmond.
Right, thank you very much for having us. So Pure Earth is an environmental health NGO working to address issues of pollution, especially in middle to low-income countries like Ghana. The focus is on preventing lead poisoning in children, pregnant women, and lactating mothers.
Interesting. So it means that you've been doing some work at Abublushi, right? Or that doesn't...
Yes, we've had an e-waste project in Abublushi. We try to work with our partners there to address the issues of waste, e-waste in Abublushi. And I think that pilot has been successful.
Yeah, because that's the only place my mind went to when you said lead, because we know the e-waste that happens over there. So let me come to you, Mr. Meyer. You are visiting Ghana. Is this your first time?
I'm embarrassed to say it's my first time. I'm so excited to be here. I was due to come here about 3 years ago, and it was right at the start of COVID. So
too bad.
Unfortunately, it delayed my trip, but I'm delighted to be here now.
Great to have you. I hope you feel comfortable. Do you?
I feel very comfortable.
Great. Tell us why you are here.
Well, I'm here because we're hoping that Ghana will be a flagship country for us in our lead program going forward. Ghana has a history of being a leader in Africa, and we think we've picked a country that will set an example for the rest of the continent in being able to combat the evils of lead.
Esmond, let me come back to you. Tell us more about the work you're doing here. What does it involve? Engagement? Who are you engaging? Are you just engaging government, policymakers? Just tell us more about the work you do in the country.
Right. So Pure Earth has been in and out of Ghana since 2010. We've been working with key stakeholders like government, environmental protection agencies, the Ghana Health Service, mainly to work around the pollution issues. In 2020, we had a lead program launch, which we christened Protecting Every Child Potentials. The idea is to raise awareness around lead pollution and poisoning in children. There's a partnership between UNICEF, Pure Earth, and then it's funded by Claros Foundation, and we are grateful to them for that funding. We have, based on that project, embarked on one of the biggest blood lead level measurement in children under 5 years to ascertain the situation of lead poisoning. We know that lead poisoning is a public health concern in Ghana, but we don't really have baseline data to talk to. And so that has been done. And we've done that in 3 ecological zones in Ghana, the northern part, Ashanti region, and also Greater Accra here. We've also embarked on what we call the home-based assessment to identify the source contamination of lead. And look, it will interest you to know that lead pollution comes in various forms. Paint, in lead in paint in our homes, the toys the kids play with,
oh, wow.
the medicines we take.
I wouldn't have addressed my mind to that. No.
The medicine we take, and in fact, even the apothecary we use. We have a special machine called the SRF that actually measures the concentration levels of lead in this.
You don't say?
Yeah, so we've done this across the country as well, to give us a sense of the situation of lead pollution in Ghana in general. So we're hoping that in the next month we would have the data in, and then we can speak to it. Hopefully we'll come back here again.
Please, you should. This is a very interesting conversation. I am interested in, especially when you spoke about toys. All my antennas went up there. So Conrad, I would just like for you to tell us why it's important that we pay attention to this. Let's just go off script a bit.
Sure. The lead issue, I think, is one that is not appreciated around the world for how severe it is. One statistic that just blows my mind is the fact that in the world today, there are 800 million children whose blood lead levels are above acceptable levels. That's 800, that's 1 in every 3 children in the world. And this is a problem that is much more prevalent in lower and middle income countries. So if 1/3 of the children in the world have it, you can be sure that the numbers are much higher throughout the lower and middle income countries. And this is, it's an awful thing. It affects people's intelligence. It increases the level of cardiovascular disease, kidney disease. It robs children of their ability to get the most out of school. It steals money from our economies. Just the children alone and the effects of lead cost the world economy $1 trillion. And it's also been linked to violence. People with elevated levels of lead in their blood have been proven to simply be more violent. And actually around the world, when we removed lead from gasoline, though you wouldn't believe it when you read the newspapers, there was actually a decline in violence in the world. And these are children. They're going to carry these effects with them for their whole lives. So it gives you a little bit of an idea of why this is so important and why I think Esmond and I feel so strongly about it.
It's a really important conversation that needs to be expanded and taken beyond this setup, and I hope that we'll begin to have these conversations because they're very important. But tell us more about the work that Pure Earth has been doing on the global scene and what impact you've been making.
Well, we have actually been working on expanding the kind of work that we're doing here in Ghana around the world. We start, as Esmond was saying, by going out and doing a blood level assessment of the population to try to figure out how big the problem is in that particular country. Then we go through what we call a rapid market survey, where we go out, we survey homes and markets to try to see if we can find where the source of the lead is coming from. And then taking those two things together, we try to put together a plan with the country for how we're going to address the issue. As has been mentioned, it comes from many different areas. When we first started, it was really lead battery recycling, kinds of batteries that you use in your cars. Not something you think about, but something that is actually very, very common in lower and middle income countries, and here in Ghana. It can come in spices. It's used to enhance the color of the spices and also their weight. It can come in lead in pottery, in the glazes that are in pottery, or in pans, the metals that are in the pans. So this is something that we can explore and then put together a program for dealing with. Then we try to work with governments and with local groups to build not only a plan that's sustainable, but one that is well known to the public, because this is something the public needs to know more about. They can be our partners in trying to fight it.
At the height of the conversation on ending galamsey or illegal mining, there were concerns about the kind of metals that or chemicals that were being used, and mercury being the major one, poisoning our water bodies. And Pure Earth has been doing some work in that regard, looking into lead and mercury. Can you just basically tell us what you've been able to find?
All right, thank you very much. So one of our expertise areas is solving mercury pollution around the world. In Ghana, it's one of the strategic areas for us. We're planning to meet with the Minister of Lands and Forestry to begin that discussion. Because when you go to the mining communities, the issues of lead pollution is a big issue. And we have the expertise. We believe the pollution issue can be addressed and can be solved. And so we're engaging the government and other civil society organizations around addressing this issue. We have a 5-step approach to addressing this, and we hope that once we have the opportunity, we can contribute significantly to addressing the mercury pollution in the mining areas.
You said you work closely with the Ghana Health Service and government agencies like the EPA. Can I just walk into a health facility and ask for a test for the lead levels? Because at this point, I'm asking myself, am I at risk? Am I in the safe zone or not?
That's part of the regulatory processes. Work with EPA, of course, Ghana Health Service, to have the necessary test kits available for this. And of course, and that is why we're waiting for the result of the just ended baseline surveys to determine the blood lead levels and also the home-based assessment. Then we will definitely engage these organizations. But we are working with them. Ghana Health Service was contracted to undertake this exercise of the blood level testing in children around the country. And so they are very much involved in this, UNICEF, EPA. And so, yes, I'm sure that we will definitely find a solution to this going forward. The thing about lead pollution is that little is known about it, but it's endemic in our society. And so we're doing all we can, engaging governments, engaging civil society, and regulatory bodies to shine lights on this.
Would we have to brace ourselves, Conrad, for some major policy shifts? Because this may require us, probably, like you just said, taking lead out of gasoline in other parts of the world. Should we prepare ourselves for major policy shifts if we want to deal with the lead issue?
I think we will have to, and it is something that is beneficial over the long term, but it will involve some dislocations. And one of the things that Pure Earth really tries to focus on is many of the activities that give rise to this, whether it's battery recycling or gold mining, involve people's livelihoods. And it's all good and well to say that we want to remove these things, but those people still need to have a way of supporting their families. So an important part of our work is to make sure that when we take one livelihood away or we alter that one livelihood, we do it in a way that provides those people the opportunity to feed their families in a different way, whether it's doing the same thing in a different fashion or finding a new job. So I think we're going to need to see more regulation. We're going to see more intervention, but it has to be smart intervention. It has to recognize the necessities of life.
Interesting. I'm enjoying the conversation so much. I don't want it to end because I'm learning a lot, and I'm sure you at home, you're also learning a lot. And how do we access Pure Earth? Are you on social media? Because I like to follow what you're doing and see how I can contribute to help the agenda.
Yes, we are on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also LinkedIn.
And your handle is just Pure Earth or Pure Earth Ghana?
We have Pure Earth as the global Pure Earth. If you want to access the international channel, and the local channel is Pure Earth Ghana, you can access us.
Right.
Yeah. And there's one thing I needed to just highlight a bit. As part of the work Pure Earth has been doing in Ghana, we embark on what we call a mapping project. And this mapping project sought to identify the toxic areas in Ghana. Currently, we have 217 toxic areas in Ghana.
When you say toxic areas, what do you mean?
So these are the areas that are heavily polluted by heavy metals, like lead and mercury. And currently, we've adopted a place in Bremai in Ashanti region, which we're going to clean up. I think the organization is spending almost $70,000 to clean that piece of land that is contaminated by lead. We'll get in touch once we are ready to move on.
Yeah, we should work more. And I want to know if I live in a toxic place.
We actually have a database. We actually have a database that you can actually go in, and that's why we're partnering with government, working with government like minded organizations to help us clean some of these toxic sites that affect our livelihood, our lives, and just as the board chair indicated, it's the consequences of these toxic pollutions are dire.
I'll let you have the final word. What's your dream? What's the big dream for Pure Earth? All this hustle, traveling, coming over here, spending $70,000 and more across the world. What's your heartbeat? What do you want to see?
What we would love to see is a world that is free of toxic pollution so that people can be healthy and reach their full potentials. And unfortunately, it's a big ask, but I think we're up to it. Definitely,
and you have at least my support, yeah? And I'm sure that the people at home who are willing to push or put their weight behind what you do, and we hope that our governments will understand and appreciate the situation at hand. Thank you so much. Conrad Meyer is board chair of Pure Earth and Blacksmith Initiative, and Esmond Kwanzaa is country director, Pure Earth Ghana. And we've been talking about the work they do here in Ghana globally, the importance of dealing with this lead poisoning issue. If you're not aware, I'm sure you've learned something today, how it affects especially children and their cognitive abilities, and you know the impact in the future. So just find Pure Earth on social media, follow them, support their work, and hopefully we will achieve that dream Conrad Meyer talks about. You're watching the AM show. We'll be getting interactive shortly. Please stay. Thank you so much.
In the Ashanti region is a forest-rich, mountainous area. This is where you will find Sechere Kwamang. You can be forgiven if this is your first time hearing of this place, but I can assure you, after today, you will never forget it. Sechere Kwamang has a captivating history. For 3 centuries, their ancestors lived in caves, and those caves are still there, waiting for you and I to discover them. We got very lucky at the very beginning when the Apejahene of Kwamang himself agreed to take us on a guided tour. He pulled on his Wellington boots and led us deep into the forest.
So Nana, tell us about this place. Here it's called Inframaboom, but it's annex, Inframaboom annex. During the olden days, you know, there were a lot of tribal wars. Yeah. And our ancestors moved away from a certain town called Amoako, and then came to settle at a place called Sumuna Kesieso. Elephant Hole. Oh, yeah, Elephant Hole. So, in the modern times, we said we have modernized it to be Sumuna Kesie, but it's Asumuna, Asunu Amuna Kesie.
Suddenly, the clear path we had been walking on disappeared over a steep edge. This is where most people would turn back, believing they can go no further. We certainly would have, if we didn't have Nana with us. But over 4 centuries ago, when Kabie the hunter got here, he decided to keep going. And that's how he discovered the famous Inframaboom, the Windy Cave.
A hunter within that, within our ancestors, decided to go on an expedition, hunting expedition. Right. So fortunately, when he came down this way, he detected this cave, thinking there were animals in it, so that he could make a good hunt there. He entered the place and realized it was a safe place for people to live. Oh. Yeah. So he passed the night there. So the next day he came to the town and got the chief informed about what he had seen. Right. Then the chief decided that, okay, then they should come. So when they came and inspected the place, they realized it was a nice place where people could live. Right. So they went back and then got the chief informed about what they had come to see. You know, during those times, the people were not many. So the chief decided to move his people to this place to settle, so that enemies could not attack them. Enye boni bi ewie ye ho na enya hoho a ombehwe buimu omo free Joy FM eja Ebu ye di ho akoniaba. De bia ebo mpaye. Se enya adumfo, omedum yen. Entimi mesi dai wo soro ha. Na yemetena ha. Na ahanya krabehwe. Enya sika mfrim. Entimi fasiesi oman. Ene omabo. Ewura mu ache. Imagine saying.
The first thing I noticed was that the caves are not exactly windy. Actually, it's boiling hot in here. I was sweating buckets. The second thing I noticed, bats!
You see all the bats? Yeah. Wow. Okay. So Nana, this looks like the main chamber, right?
Yes.
Okay.
This is the first hall. This is where the chief and his people used to have their meetings.
Well, I've noticed some candles.
Yeah. This is it's the Christians. Normally, some of the Christians come here to pray. They stay here for weeks and then do their fasting and prayers.
This really is quite an adventure, but it ought to come with a warning. People with back problems will not enjoy this. I really am blown away by the idea of an entire community surviving in this cavernous subterranean space for 300 years. How did they do it? Where did they get water? Well, as it turned out, the answer was just next door.
This is where they used to take.
This is
the water they used to drink.
This is their drinking water.
Yeah.
So it's a stream that runs through the caves.
Yes.
How clean is the water?
Well, you know, once we see it like this, we think it's okay. So we just take it.
Wow.
We need somebody. At least we need people who could come to help us so that we develop the place very well. And then make sure the history is reserved for even the younger generations to be able to tell whenever somebody comes in to have a look at the place. Yeah.
It's fascinating that so much of a people's history, 300 years of their lives, could have occurred there, with most of them bent over double for the entirety of their lives as they hid from their enemies successfully, because obviously the people survived now to create the community of Kwaman. But these caves are quite an experience. Just being in them makes you feel like you've traveled through time to a period when technology did not exist. Everything electronic that we had felt alien in there. It's a feeling that many people would pay a fortune to experience because the world is now so completely automated. So if you want to really get back in touch with nature, I recommend these caves. It's a trip through time, and that's priceless.
Grateful you can stay with us here on the AM show. Benjamin Akakpo has joined me. It's time to get interactive with you. Benjamin, why are you so mischievous?
I am not mischievous. I heard something in my ears right before we came, and you heard it too. So that got me a bit. That got
you excited.
It got me excited.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
It's good to be back doing this with you.
It's good to be here with you, and that was quite a conversation with Professor Echia and Adib Sani on the Ashaiman incident. During Blunt Thoughts, I shared my honest thoughts on that matter. I feel, listen, I've been to places, you don't see officials of state taking the law into their own hands and acting like this, in as much as what happened to the poor young military officer.
Very sad.
When you listen to his family and what they say, the expectations, what they were hoping would become of him and all of that, sad. But the result of, you know, what what the military did.
You see, they say two wrongs.
People's fathers and stuff beat them like,
two wrongs
what's that?
Don't make a right. Look, and to think that the president, as the commander-in-chief, he's the topmost person in the military, in other words, because he commands the military. Exactly. So you're the commander-in-chief. And, you know, there are those who had issues with his silence over the issue.
Which he maintained at the SONA as well.
During the SONA. And hasn't said anything.
In fact, you know this happened before the SONA.
Yeah.
He had opportunity, whether on social media or elsewhere, to speak about it. He didn't. At the SONA, he didn't. Till now.
I don't know. I follow the president on social media. I haven't seen any post even condoling with the family of this slain soldier. I'm just wondering why there's a silence over this. And once again, it brings to mind the concerns of his critics about his silence on major happenings in the country. It
wouldn't be the
as
first
against the quick reaction to events that happen in other parts of the world. Well, we have a first caller, Abendal from Kumasi. Hello, Abendal. Good morning. Good to hear you. Share your thoughts with us.
Yeah. Good morning, Akakpo and Benny.
Good morning.
And Benny to Mawakwa Bawai.
You kept calling and asking after. So.
Because so quite one crack. What now can me so you by one crack? Channel.
Go ahead with your thoughts.
Yeah, you see, the military action, I would plead with them to exercise patience because we civilians, we cannot challenge with them. And at times, we may do something wrong, but when they also act in that way, internationally, it brings a lot of questions to our constitutionality, that is it constitutional or how come? So I think this exercise patience and we the citizens too. You see, in the past, when someone shouts for help, people come out willingly or people run to the person to assist the person to come out of his or her problem. But sometimes ago, we still realize that some people will just act in that way, claiming that they are in danger. And when people rush to them, then it is otherwise. And that one has made people cautious not to act to when people are in dire need of their assistance. So the problem is a problem, and actually I don't know how to comment on that. People refusing to ask safely to people when they are in dire need of their assistance because of their past experience that they have encountered. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us, Abendal. And it's an interesting point he makes, Benjamin, about the issue of people using sympathy as a bait for crime. Yeah. And I know people who fall in victim for that. Even sometimes it's not maybe robbing you of your items, it's fraud. Some people come with stories of their children not feeling well, and then they're using sympathy to get you to support them, and that's fraud. And I get it.
You know what comes to mind? That whole incident, like, where apparently the story goes that after he was stabbed or whatever, he was knocking on people's doors, and yes, any one of us would want someone else to extend a hand, help us. But mind you, this is a community or a country where sometimes you even call the police when you are being robbed, and you would be told stories. Yeah. Now, you also know the community. Ashaiman is, let's face it, it's not necessarily the safest of places. Unless I knew maybe that it is Bernice Abubedu, and I can tell from your voice
that I'm the one, and
it's a stranger.
Me. Yeah.
Would I necessarily just put myself at risk and go? So there are so many dynamics. You can't victimize people, and it didn't happen during the day.
Yeah, and it reminds me of a WhatsApp message that was circulating about even when you hear your taps running at night, don't be quick to step out. It could be a criminal who's trying to get you out. So some of these things. I mean, it's rather unfortunate, and I'm so sad for this young boy, very, very young boy who had such a bright future ahead of him. We hope that the perpetrators are brought to book. At least the family will be put at ease. We have another caller. Is it Ibrahim?
Yeah, hello, good morning.
Hi,
madam.
Ibrahim. How's Sandama?
Please, Sandama is doing great. And
great. I'm doing perfect. Thanks for asking. Share your thoughts with us.
For me. This morning, you people are looking very fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
and I actually enjoy your show.
Thank you so much.
And tell Ben that actually I appreciate the manner in which he tackled the bull by the horn. He just hit the nail on its head. Late morning, I was listening to the show, like what he was taking us consistently through what the government promised, and then now he has deviated. And now at least was confused, saying things that actually do not match with his own words. In fact, I like that. I think these are what our leaders deserve. Besides that, back to what transpired. Actually, as you people said, human beings as we are very important towards the development of our country. Therefore, no one will be happy that someone is killed. No. Whether the person is what? A civilian or just an ordinary Ghanaian. But put that one aside. Looking at the way this military acting, is it right? But my issue is that, assuming an ordinary person like me, myself here, was victimized, would they have carried a similar action? The answer is hell no. Headmasters have been killed in several occasions, in several villages. Even you will hear it, apart from you, the media, you will say it and then it will die off. No one will even trace. Apart from that, a lot of people, hundreds, if not millions of people, they are dying. So are they trying to tell us that this particular person's life is so, they deem it so important to the neglection of the ordinary people? Look at the type of country we are in. No one cares about anyone apart from those that they think that they have directly influence as the law is concerned. Please. In fact, then try to actually put more fire so that if they won't listen to them, so be it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ibrahim from Sandama. Really passionate, touches on a few angles of the situation. He talks about what would have happened if he was the one involved in this.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of what Adib said earlier when we were discussing the issue. Was this just a crime, or it was an attack on an officer? Because there could be separate incidents, and so I mean it's a dicey issue. We have B Salam joining us. Good morning to you. Hello. Well, I think we lost him over there, Ben.
Well, I mean, the dynamics are, I was saying this morning that it could have happened to any one of us. Imagine visiting maybe a family member, because someone's husband came out to brush his teeth, and by the time she came out, the toothbrush was somewhere, slippers somewhere else, and she couldn't find her husband.
Benjamin, we're talking about the physical...
No questions asked.
The physical impact of this operation, but we haven't spoken about the psychological. Because you see, Benjamin, imagine we were here and you just saw soldiers and you were picked up. Instantly, what's going... Is there a civil war? What's happening? You know, instantly your mind is racing because this is Ghana.
Have I done anything wrong?
Yeah, this is Ghana.
What
we don't have the military walking in the streets all the time. And so instantly, there's a lot of trauma that's going to be caused.
Imagine the children who may have witnessed these things.
I know of somebody who was treated unfairly by the police. And for a very long time, anytime he saw a police, he would have an anxiety attack. Look, these things are real, and we cannot just say, oh well, they deserve it. You know, I heard somebody say, oh yeah, they deserve it. Why didn't they help the guy? I'm like, if it was your relative in there, would you be saying that? We have Darwin Yakubu joining us from Michelle Camp. Hello, let's hear you.
Okay, so thank you for the opportunity. In the first place, I want to condemn the gruesome murder of this young soldier. Nobody is happy that a soldier as young as, even not an old soldier, is murdered in the cruel manner in which this soldier was murdered. But then, the action that was taken by the military high command is the last resort that a military high command should want to take. In fact, the military high command should apologize to the people of Ghana. In fact, I am a witness of what happened on that day. I have been billed to take an X-ray at Tulaku, where the area where part of the operations were carried. And I can tell you, this gentleman who has dressed in his outfits to come and carry operations in the X-ray room was made to lie in cow dung, dip his phone and his watch in the cow dung. This is something I witnessed with my eyes, not that I was told. And honestly, look, we are in this country. We have what we call Bureau of National Intelligence, or what used to be National DNI.
Yeah, NIB, National Investigation Bureau.
Yes, we have the CID of the police. And then even in recent times, the IGP launched the police investigation, police intelligence unit. Apart from that, we have a whole ministry called National Security, which has a minister. Put that aside. We have what we call the military defense intelligence. And if we put all this security architecture together, and we have a heinous crime like this, and all the military command, high command could think of is to go haywire, beating everybody they saw on the street. Come on, where are we as a country? In fact, my own neighbor, who is a slaughter, I don't know the profession of their name, but they are the people who killed the cattle and the tulaku. He's a Muslim, and in fact, that day, if you had come to see how they have beaten this man, but we don't even live in Ashaiman. We live outside Ashaiman. He had woken up in the morning, went to his work, going to earn a living for he and his family, only to go, and the fact that his work is located in the jurisdiction where the operation is being carried out, they beat him mercilessly. Why? How can people be made to suffer for something they don't know about? So the military high command should bow their heads in shame and apologize. They should stop that high ego. Yes, we know that the military is in there to protect us, but they aren't there to do this. They should begin to think about 21st century security measures. And for God's sake, we are not in 1923. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us. And this issue he speaks about, Tulaku, which is in the Pum Katamanso constituency.
Yes.
Where they actually gave them, I think that's where the abattoir, they gave them
you dip their heads in the carcasses, and some of them in cow dung and all that. I mean, this is dehumanizing. You won't do that. And the MP for the area has been speaking to us. Is it
the Ashaiman MP or the? Oh yeah,
well,
you're talking of the other one.
Talking to us, and the constituents are demanding compensation. Amnesty International agrees. Let's see if they will be compensated. Let's see if those who went there will be spoken to.
Recently, the $1+ million that was given, was it Ijra or somewhere else? I saw something, but even then, it never suffices. Do you remember the incident involving the 7 who were killed in, was it Asawase?
But that was by the police, though.
By the police. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm talking about those clothed with state power. You get it, the powers of the state. And Ken Thompson, the CEO of Dalex Finance, yesterday on the Super Morning Show, made mention of the fact that his own driver riding a motorbike, apprehended, beaten to a pulp. I mean, you just see people and beat them up. What kind of military training do these people get? We have friends in the military. I have a lecturer who's a general in the military, but look, you can't gloss over such, I'm sorry, stupidity. Who teaches this? You go flying with helicopters and beating people to a pulp. What intelligence is that? You round up over 100 people, and I mean, it boggles my mind. And we'll say it because if they come for the Jews and you don't say it, the day they come for you, no one will be there to speak for you. No one.
Well,
we have Salam on the line?
Yes.
Okay.
From where? Takwa?
From Takwa.
Quick thoughts, Salam.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, my problem is about our father, the Excellency, the President of Ghana, on his speech on the nation's address. He didn't even mention the killing of the soldier or the people of Ashama who are brutalized. In fact, I wonder why. Because he is our father, the whole Ghana. So I don't see what is wrong with him saying anything about it. What happened?
Thank you,
I
Salam.
hope you are with me.
Yes, we can hear you, Salam, loud and clear. So,
So he would have wanted to hear from Mr. President, as we all do, but Mr. President has been mum. His silence has been deafening. But then again, Bernice, you are not the president, and I am not the president. Maybe there are things he sees and knows that we don't see and do not comprehend. Who knows?
But sending out condolences, I mean, the person is dead. If he didn't want to comment about the shaman, I think he should have just recognized that this happened. And even if he just said, I have taken notice of events in Ashaman and we're looking into this at the appropriate time, you know,
commiserate with the family of the dead and share some empathy with, those affected. I don't know, but our leaders, I think they lack that finesse. You know, in the United States, sometimes the president would cancel his vacation and all of that just because of an incident and come back and forcefully here. It is what it is. We have another caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Odote, where are you calling from?
Hajo.
All right, your quick thoughts, please.
Yeah, I think the incident that happened at Ashaman is a non-starter. I mean, the military is being paid by the taxpayers' money. We are buying all the arms and everything for them, and they cannot use that same thing on us. I think the High Command should buy their head in shame, because this is not it. This is not at all. We don't expect such a thing from them. I mean, whatever happened before the guy was murdered or was killed or whatever happened, nobody knows. So you just can't just go there and close the place up and start beating people. That is unconstitutional, and I think that this should be the last time we should see such a thing. I mean, they done it in several places, and we are still having some level of patience for them. But I think it's becoming part of their style, and I think that should be remarkably discredited, and it should not happen again.
Thank you so much, Odote, for sharing your thoughts with us. So, Benjamin, I'm on the President's Facebook page now, and still no mention of the incident, even after the young soldier was buried yesterday. Well, let's wait and see when the President will find it appropriate to comment. Well, Yusuf is our last caller from Tamale. Hello, Yusuf, please. Joseph, rather, I beg your pardon. Please be as snappy as you can. Let's hear you. Hello, Joseph. Well, too bad we lost Joseph. Joseph was going to be our last caller. But before we go, let me just remind you that water is alive. Awake is premium purified water treated through a strict purification process to ensure that every bottle on the market refreshes you better. And they're the perfect sizes for all occasions, okay? We've got the 330 and 500 ml and 750 ml. There's also the 1.5 liters for the heavy drinkers. And guess what? Awake has introduced a 19-liter jar for homes and offices. All you need to do is drink Awake purified drinking water. Choose a bottle of Awake purified drinking water today and get quality hydration. Here's how to do that. You can call 026-235-1251 for bulk purchase. Remember, for every bottle you purchase, an amount is donated to the National Cardiothoracic Center. One for life. This is FDA approved.
And indeed, we do have to take a sip of water. We've done a lot of talking. Bernice has done the most talking this morning. Sure? So I'll get you... I don't think they have... They have the medium one.
Give me the 19-liter jar so I can continue.
You can drink over the weekend.
I'm on a hydration drive.
And
healthy living.
I see. I see.
More water.
Join me on this journey.
Less soda.
Grab your bottle of Awake water. And you also know that as you purchase it, you contribute to other people who may be less privileged. On that note, Bernice, Benjamin Akakpo.
Bernice Abubedu Lanza.
It's been a show. Have a lovely